2023, and reading as follows. The honorable members of the Delta County Board of Commissioners. Dear Commissioners, a regular meeting of the Delta County Board of Commissioners is scheduled for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 at 5:15 p.m. in the boardroom of the Delta County Service Center and via Zoom. Sincerely yours, Nancy Presrocki, Delta County Clerk. Please rise for a word of prayer. Thank you. Lord, as we begin this meeting, we thank you for our many blessings. We ask for your guidance to help our commissioners make decisions in the best interests of the citizens they serve. And Lord, we pray for the safety of our military men and women. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Commissioner Melner.
Here.
Commissioner View.
Here.
Commissioner Barron.
Here.
Commissioner Moyle.
Here.
And Commissioner Peterson.
Here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this meeting. The approval of the minutes of the previous meetings, the county board meeting of 3/7/23. I would need those meetings either amended or approved.
Move for approval.
We have a second on that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Commissioner Barron, seconded by Commissioner Peterson. Additional discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes would pass. The approval of tonight's agenda. What is your pleasure?
I move motion to approve it. Support.
Commissioner Melnar motions to approve, supported by Commissioner Barron. Additional discussion.
I have one comment. If something could be put on there or not, I don't know. I was on the airport advisory board and there was a resolution by the airport manager and the board for compensation vote to be brought before this board, and I was wondering why it is not on here.
Well, if nobody put it on there. Would you like it as item under new business?
It's on there.
There's a,
And it's not on there. It has to go to the finance committee.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure that being on that board, I said I would make sure that we would address it, why, you know, and then it can go to the finance.
so item number 14, you want to put stipend for airport manager?
Or can we put it under number 8?
Resolution supporting as a totally separate item. What's your pleasure, gentlemen? Commissioners?
Well, do we have that email available to the commission on what she sent asking for? So,
No, it was going to the finance committee prior to the full board. Because it was
I
a
guess I
finance
was
question.
just looking at rules of procedure because other things haven't went to the finance committee yet. And I wanted this to follow that same.
We're trying to make that happen.
last year, Chair Johnson had moved that anything that concerned finances had to come to the finance committee prior to coming to the full board. If you would like to make a motion on changing that aspect.
No, I just want to make sure we're following the procedure because last meeting we didn't follow it.
Regarding what item, sir? We are still on the agenda, but regarding what item, that's important to know.
Regarding the pay for the interim administrator. That did that go to the finance committee? Did I miss that?
No.
Yes, that's for the finance committee.
No.
She says no, and see.
We bring it.
All right.
The finance committee just said yes, and I
Yeah,
got me
well, they
totally
were there.
confused.
I've tried to
That's
step
where-
out of the interim finance committee up for that. Because that would be a conflict of interest of me.
No, I know that, but then I didn't see any report on that. So
Okay, well, right now, you are you making a motion, sir, to amend the agenda?
well, we don't have any documentation. I just make sure it gets in the record that I did question the procedure on that for from one meeting to the next. It just seems to be out of place somewhat.
Could I suggest, if you would, consider making a motion number 14, where we could put the discussion on your concern? That way you don't feel like you're being silenced.
No, I don't feel I'm being silenced. I just feel that there was something sent in on the a resolution from the airport board, which I voted on, for some type of compensation, because this person is doing two jobs. And now it's going to the finance committee, which is fine. I'll wait, but I just wanted to make note that I didn't.
Very good, sir. We have a motion to accept the agenda. We have a second to accept the agenda, and this is additional discussion. Anybody? So are there any?
I would like to note that I did talk to our airport manager and tell her the process of where we were going, and she was okay with that. So it wasn't like she wasn't aware that it wasn't going to be on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, actually.
Well, I appreciate that, but I wanted it on tonight just to prove that we need a policy on it.
You have an opportunity to put it on here tonight if you insist, Commissioner.
Well, we don't have documentation. You were on the board, you know.
I would like to make a motion that we put number 14 to
Airport manager stipend.
airport manager stipend and to refer that to the finance committee.
Okay, item 14 under new business. Now, I don't want to step in, if that's Commissioner Peterson moves that we put said discussion as item 14 and reference it to the finance committee. I would need a second to move that forward.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Peterson, seconded by Commissioner Barron. Additional discussion. All those in favor?
Wait, I have a comment.
All those in favor, please. We got to get through one before. I won't black you out, I promise. I just want to get through this. Because you'll have me in the weeds here, Steve. Okay, so in favor of this addition, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Commissioner View.
Present.
No, your comment, sir.
I didn't want it to come to the finance committee as a stipend. I wanted us to follow the past procedure. That's all.
Duly noted.
And that's why I voted present, because I don't believe it's consistent and equitable as other processes.
All right, gentlemen, commissioners, in regards to accepting tonight's agenda as amended, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. That moves. Okay, presentation of written communications, communications received, communications forwarded. Do we have any?
No,
Okay, nothing to put on file. Reports of standing and statutory committees, special committees, and others. Anything?
none.
Okay, very good. Public comment on agenda items. And we have Bonnie Hackala from Escanaba. Welcome.
Good evening. Well, I rise in support, Bonnie Huckala, Escanaba. I rise in support of the Veterans Relief Fund, which I see on your agenda. We call those who fight in wars soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Green Berets, or perhaps nurses in the medical corps, nurses and doctors, both men and women. And all of these are patriots and then eventually become veterans. Without these men and women, we would not be standing here free today. So I would just like to take this opportunity to honor our veterans today and to thank them for everyone who has helped us to keep our constitutional republic. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Reed Hyken, Escanaba.
Thank you, Commissioner, Board. My name is Reed Hyken, Escanaba, Michigan. I noticed on the agenda, we do have the Veterans Committee. Having done some research, very frankly, I was appalled to find that Delta County has set aside for emergency relief for veterans. These men and women who raised their hand and set aside years of their lives away from their families, away from their homes, away from their futures, to assure us of our freedoms. And in return for that, the previous board here was so generous as to give roughly $1.10 per veteran for emergency relief for 3,500 veterans. Somebody needing money because they're trouble paying their gas bill after having served this country, having trouble paying their electric bill, having trouble paying their rent, having trouble putting food on the table for their family are basically budgeted $1.10 in the way of assistance from our community. That is appalling. It's beyond appalling and it is ridiculous. And I'm asking this board to do something about it as quickly as possible. Those veterans have needs. And it's time for us to set aside the garbage and set aside the game playing. And let's do something for the people who have done plenty for us. We owe them. We have a debt to pay.
Thank you, sir. All right, last call. Comment on agenda items. Very good. Oh, we got somebody? Just raise your hand high. No, see somebody on Zoom? Obviously, you don't have to raise your hand high. Okay, last call, agenda items. Very good. We will move on to the administrator's report. Ashley?
I'd like to report we are taking our first steps in relocating our utilities, and it begins on March 27th. Some Delta County Parks updates. The Conservation District is working with Spot on setting up online reservations for our campgrounds. They've been keeping me well informed throughout the process, and I also have a few tasks to complete for Spot to be up and running. I want to thank Holly and Rory for working towards this benefit for our residents and other visitors. For Central Dispatch, I met with Dispatch Director Jen Peterson, and we have submitted for congressional directed spending, otherwise known as earmarking monies. I would like to thank all of our local law enforcement agencies, the Sheriff's Department, Escanaba, Gladstone, Michigan State Police, and our school resource officers, and our prosecuting attorney who sent out letters for support for this request. The project we would like to see start is the construction of 2 800 communication towers. The ideal location for these towers would be between Escanaba, Gladstone, and Rapid River, Stonington area. We also met with Representative Preston to discuss funding for these towers. On Monday, the chair, emergency management coordinator, and Lieutenant Duresha and I had our meeting on emergency management. I'm pleased to report that Lieutenant Duresha assured the chair and I that our emergency management coordinator, Paul Geyer, is one of the counties that he is actually not worried about in case of emergency. So I would like to thank Paul for all his hard work he's done for us. Update on the audit. The audit is still in process. Anderson Tackman has been able to work remotely on the audit, and I would like to send thank you to Brandon for that opportunity. And we also, in Brandon's department, the IT department, the technical support specialist, Cody, has started his position, and we are thankful for the board to approve for this position and to help Brandon as the county grows. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a motion to place that on file.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Barron, supported by Commissioner Melnar. All additional discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that would pass. Okay, Personnel Committee minutes of 3/13/23. There was no quorum according to this. So 3/15/23, 3/21/23. Melnar, do you want to report or just seek approval?
Do you have anything on it?
The only thing I'd like to say is we did take care of a lot of business that first meeting. And we got kind of sidetracked a little bit on administrators, qualifications. We reaffirmed them a little bit on today's meeting. I had a few mistakes. I put a bachelor's degree in front of a master's degree. And when I did my research, I realized we need more higher qualifications or equivalent. And we kind of changed it today, so we'll see where that goes.
Okay, all those, or could I make it a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner View, supported by the chairman of that committee, Mr. Melnar. All those additional discussion? Okay, very good. All those in favor of passing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They would pass. Department head updates. Do we have any updates from any of our department heads? And I see that we do. Welcome.
Good evening, Lauren Wickman, prosecuting attorney. since we have some new board members, I wanted to provide some further information about my office and just provide some update on a couple different items. As many of you know, I've been in the office now for 6 years, moving my way up from assistant prosecutor to chief assistant prosecutor. Prior to that, I worked for a law firm that did private work for insurance companies, downstate. My chief assistant, Beth Wickwire, started in our office in mid-September of last year. Beth came to us with numerous years of work downstate in various roles. She worked for both MSU and U of M College of Law. She worked for various courts, including the Court of Appeals, in various roles, but most specifically as a research assistant, diving into different civil and criminal issues, as well as working for a law firm, and most recently working for a law firm based out of the Flint area, I believe, that primarily focused on municipal work. And that was one of the things that really drew me to hiring Ms. Wickwire. The wealth of information that she was able to bring to our office, not only from a criminal background, but also from a municipal background. I want to emphasize that our office does have experience in both criminal and civil matters, and the number of civil matters that overlap with criminal matters. I know it's been an issue with this board that our office primarily focuses on criminal cases. And while that is absolutely the fact, as civil counsel, which we have been in that role now for approximately 5 years, we have represented to this board numerous opinions, provided drafts and review of contracts, as well as provided current representation on a pending lawsuit that involved non-civil liability claims. I know there's a matter on the board's agenda related to the hiring of a separate and distinct municipal attorney. And I wanted to point the board's attention to 2 different statutes, both of which provide by default that the prosecutor is the representative for the county. Those are MCL 49.71 and 49.155. The exception to that is if this board determines that our office, the prosecutor's office, is unable to properly represent this county. This board has talked numerous times about frivolous lawsuits and the differentiation between when MMRMA, the insurance company coverage, comes into play, and when our office, as it currently stands as civil counsel, would come into play. And I also wanted to provide some insight into that. I myself, unfortunately, have been involved in some lawsuits and have been represented by MMRMA insurance attorneys. I've been very happy with their coverage. And I think the biggest credit to them is that they covered this county financially for anything that would come from that lawsuit, including the legal costs. My concern is by hiring somebody to cover these frivolous lawsuits, that MMRMA coverage would be negated and this county would be on the hook for thousands and thousands of dollars, not only in legal costs, but in potential settlements. I would urge you to look at the MMRMA coverage as it outlines it very clearly what they can do for this county and what they will not do depending on certain circumstances. Finally, as to the money aspect of our role as civil counsel, to hire a private firm to cover or provide the services that our office currently covers would be approximately $150 to $250 an hour. That is the going rate. Our office charges a $6,000 per year. It is not a retainer. That is not something that we nickel and dime and pull from. We charge $6,000 that my office can use to bring in more qualified people into this county to better represent the county and their citizens. We do so without an underlying financial motivation. And with what we have already provided to this county in the last calendar year for civil representation, including that lawsuit that we are counsel of record, we would have billed likely $10,000 in that one lawsuit alone. These are all things I would like the board to think about as they make the decision. But I also wanted to provide that further background to know that we are qualified and we can do this job. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It just shows the power of having the right information.
Very good. Any other department heads? Department head update, please. Okay, Mr. Mattson, I would like you to come up. There's 2 issues. I would like an update on Fuller Park. And I would also like an update to end some confusion that seems to be going about the county forest and the acquisition of the said properties. Thank you.
Well, as you well know, there was a agreement made through a trust fund 35, 37 years ago, and we got caught up in it this end of the summer. So there was a advisory board put together for Fuller Park, and we had met and came up with a conclusion of what we were going to submit to the DNR. I had to wait for your minutes, of course, to show that this board actually approved it. So I think whenever I got those from Ashley, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, sent everything in. The first page is just what we have up on the website. So it kind of shows the new day use areas and where they would be. And some of the stuff in 35, 37 years ago was that there was a day use area that had access to the river, the boat launch, and the lake. So this will provide that. The second page is a hand drawing that I did, but it was based off of Mary Kurlock's from the DNR. She had done one for us that she had hand drawn. So I'm no artist, so I used hers. But you can see that it's going to be extensively, it's going to come behind L6 and L7. So what was decided was to remove R1. I can see it, you have it up there, but that used to be R2, and remove L8 and provide parking. So also what was sent to the DNR besides this, and this is what John requested, was obviously the minutes that shows that this board approved that. So what was sent in the email very quickly was, as soon as we can find this out, what we'd like to do is, because there's sand out there and a lot of sand, we'd like to bring in some gravel to the 3 parking areas, you know, so when people park, they're not sinking down in the sand, especially if it's wet, making ruts. And then, of course, bringing in picnic tables and setting that up for the day use area. So just an FYI, we're waiting to hear back. I did receive an email, I think it was yesterday, from John Mays, and he thought it was being sent out today. He couldn't make the decision. He had to put that up the chain. So I'm guessing we'll hear very quickly if this is appropriate or whatever else the DNR wants to do. So it hasn't died. It's just been waiting for, like I said, the minutes sent in. And I know this time of year, they're real busy because of the trust fund and things like that. So I don't know if there's any questions on that. If there is, I'll
Commissioners?
just move on.
Questions for Mr. Mattson regarding Fuller?
L8 ain't listed on there, right?
What's that?
L8 is missing on there, right?
Yeah, if you look. Yeah,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so is R1 really, because it was there. Now we made R2.
Well, I see R1.
Yeah, but R1 was the one we were getting rid of. Now we just changed the number.
Okay.
You got one for you.
Okay, sure.
Now I made 7. I apologize. I don't know what else.
Thank you, sir.
48.
Okay, Delta County Forest. We started, I've given this before a little bit, but we started doing this in 2012. Looking for different places that the county could have some type of a timberland that revenue could come back later in support of the parks. Because if you remember, a long time ago, the county was going to close the parks because they didn't have enough money or during hard times to run it. So this was one of the ideas we came up with in the first year that we're running. In 2016, it was applied for to the Michigan Trust Fund. This first one, the only reason I put this on here, and we have it on the website, this is how we access the county forest. There's been a lot of rumors that for some reason, we tell people to go down 426 and turn in onto private land and access that forest. That is not the truth. He has a cable there, and if you go farther, he has a gate across an entire marsh that nobody can get across. So you couldn't even access that way if you wanted to. Log trucks do go in and out of there, but with permission for the landowner. So this is how you get to the forest. The next thing has always been about where can people go? And as you notice, this map very quickly just shows that the yellow is Truex, and that's county. The red is an easement that at the time, Plum Creek, who had the property, gave to the county. So the county has the easement in the red on basically what is now lime timber. So they went from Plum Creek to Weyerhaeuser to lime timber. And the green is basically what you gave to Plum Creek, which used to be Weyerhaeuser, is now Lime. And of the last meeting, nothing changed in the one to the west, and that would be the one to the left, that green one. Nothing changed in that easement whatsoever. The only thing that changed in the easement language, which you guys approved, was to add section 32, which is not even part of the county forest. So just to clear that up too, because we heard something about that at the last meeting. The other things that we keep hearing about is exactly what it costs this county to purchase that 1,400 acres. So I'm going to go right through here, this whole expense. Because I know Commissioner Moyle has been talking about 40,000 and he's 100% correct, which came out of the general fund. And it's actually less than that. So the first thing that had to be done, the county had to, once the trust fund grant was approved, had to do a withdrawal application from CFA. All the property is CFA, which basically means it's open to the public, mostly for hunting, fishing if there's water, and now trapping. I mean, other uses are fine, but that's the real use of CFA land. Then also the county had to purchase a plaque, which is out on the sign, and you can see the cost of that. And then the county had to get 2 appraisals through a system that the DNR will only approve. So we lucked out there because they have a list and most of them were 10,000, but because myself and my chairman walked these 2 appraisers around and spent time with them out there, we reduced each one to $4,500, making it 9,000. One was out of Marquette, and I think the other one was out of Baraga. So those appraisals went down to the DNR, and they were very close to each other. And then the CFA withdrawal and land costs. We worked that into the grant. I worked with Ryan Bergman on that to get it into the grant. There was a lot of talk at the township level that once the county owned it, county doesn't pay taxes. And they were concerned about that. But when you're in CFA, it's $1.25 an acre, and then it's divided up between every millage we have, the county, the township, and the landfill. And if you go right through your tax bill, you'll see everything. So the actual stipend to Cornell Township was very low. Tom Sauber was your treasurer at this time. I worked with Tom on it. And so this amount of money that went in. So basically, if you want to round it up just a little bit, which that's how I remember it, 112,000 was also worked into the grant. That's what the county had to pay as a penalty to get out of CFA. Anybody buying CFA land, unless you're leaving it in CFA, you have to pay a penalty, and it's so much an acre. And if you're a government entity, you cannot keep it in CFA to avoid the penalty. You have to pay to get out. So we worked that into the grant. So the grant actually paid for 75% of that amount. And it was, if I remember right, I could ask Tom, it was 42 years of back taxes to the township of Cornell. The other thing that happened is because there was still at Cornell Township meetings and other things, and I attended a couple of them, so did Ryan Bergman. We kept hearing that, the county isn't paying the fair share. So Ryan Bergman came to the board at the time and asked if there could be a donation of $7,000 to the fire department. Because at that time, Cornell Township was looking for money for their fire department. You also did that. So $7,000 extra went to the Cornell Township Fire Department, whatever year that was, and that was part of it. We worked with Jerry Plurt on that too. Okay, so there's your cost. $1,101,974.39. That was the total cost, including the grant and the whole shop. Where did that revenue come from? There was a gentleman, if you go down by Garden and you're driving along US 2, used to have a big, when you can see the boat launch, that little boat launch, the county owns it. And the DNR, I think, gives you $1 a year. Probably has never happened, but that's what they're supposed to do. So actually the county owns it. The DNR manages it right there at the little Whitefish. And there was a gentleman on the other side of the road who has these big signs. You used to see them, banners and stuff that said campground. So basically, I did some line running there and determined that half his campground was on county land. So I went and talked to him. And basically he said that, well, you don't have to worry about that. It's federal. I said, well, it's not federal, it's county. But came to the board authorized Terry Wanick to go out to make sure. And lo and behold, there was quite a bit of property, including his office and other campsites that was on that property. So you can see $10,601 dollars and 15 cents was paid by Otto to the county. And there was a little chunk of that 160 acres that was taken off, and Otto purchased that. So he was in the clear, and the county got $10,000 there. Because then tax back from the CFA withdrawal fee out of the 112 actually came back to the county, right? Because that was their share, $10,167.63. So that was another amount that you guys had paid through the grant, but then all of a sudden it came back. So that was in the revenue. And then there was a gentleman next to the rest of the property who basically was very interested in purchasing that property. So there was lots and lots of meetings where the county wanted to sell what they called Fish Dam Park, which really wasn't a park. I guess long time ago when the highway was farther north, there was a little roadside park there, and that's why they called it. Tom Elligert was wonderful for the history. So basically I contacted him and asked the county to have it appraised. It was appraised at 180,000 because there's river frontage there, but the access isn't great. And there's lots of wetland. The majority of the land there was hemlock. And then most of the rest of it was cedar with some brush. There was a little bit of red maple in there. And so I worked with Ryan to say that you should sell it for 200,000. He was the one who applied. And basically this is how it got broke down, because during the agreement to sell it, I noticed what the Plum Creek did to the county, right? They kept a timber reserve. If you buy any land from them and the timbers, whatever it is, they're going to probably cut it and then sell it to you at a reduced price. But they have quotas and things that they have to meet too, with the mill and other things. So they usually sell it. So I worked with Ryan to come up with a figure of 20,000. That if the landowner wanted to keep it, then he would pay an extra 20,000 for that timber. If not, we would come in and harvest that first year in the winter, because there was some wet soils in there too, and take out the red maple and other things and move on. And so I apologize, and I don't know why. Ryan would know this, why it didn't turn out 20,000 and 200,000, but it turned out 22,000 and 198,000. Same amount of money, 220,000. But I think it had something to do on where they got their money and what the down payments were. Then, of course, the MDNR, through their grant process, gave $826,965.26. And that was through the trust fund grant, for a grand total of $1,067,743.04. So out of pocket, out of the general fund, Ryan brought it to the board and believed that for 1,400 acres, that the county, and basically you're going to trade another 160, right? Trade for another 160, the thing, because you guys sold that property, that out of the general fund came $34,231.35. Then right after the purchase, of course, I came to the board and said, you should have somebody go out and set every 40 corner around the edges of that property, because there was some trespass going on with different things from landowners who owned it. So basically what ended up happening there, I thought we got a pretty good price too, because there was a lot of 40 corners set around the outskirts. So that was $4,400. And then there was terrible road work to do. It was torn up bad. One of the roads that is a seasonal road that we opened, you couldn't even get in there. Matter of fact, the appraisers were surprised because we couldn't get through there with side-by-sides. It was that bad. So that was $8,207.34. And then the sign and materials and stuff came to $854. And the time they were put up, they were over 1,000. But so after the fact, $13,461.34. But that didn't come out of the general fund, didn't come out of any other fund balance. Because if I think Dave will remember, I don't know if anybody else will, but back then, once the county got it, there was nothing said for like a month and a half. So I addressed the board and I says, so what are you guys going to do with it? Who's going to manage it? What are you going to do? And then it ended up being given to us for extra work, but that was fine. But so we took this 13,461.34 out of park funds, which we're allowed to do because it was under the park. So that's how this whole thing was paid for, what came out of general fund, what came out of every piece. And obviously the county records can show you this. The other thing is when you get into the trust fund, some grants went through us that we wrote, but the trust fund can only be done with the property owner or the future property owner. So the acquisition was done through the county. Ryan carried all that out with some help from us and your treasurer. So that money, this first part, the $1,067,743 never, ever came into the conservation district parks, never went out of there. That totally went out of the county books. So that'll be all there. The other thing with that purchase up there is UP Whitetails Wildlife Unlimited came to you guys and they asked you if they put in for a grant with the DNR Wildlife Division, would you approve it? And after a couple meetings and what they had proposed, this county board approved that. I got the honor of writing it up for them and sending it in and obviously doing most of the work. But as you see here, that is completed now or almost completed. Working on one other project of that, and it'll be done here this summer. And then that whole thing should be totally completed. But you can see here, I won't go through them all, but the proposed objectives, you can see what they were. All proposed objectives have been completed. This was turned into the DNR a couple months ago. And you can see on opening creations, there was actually more done than what was originally proposed. Walking trails, there was more done than originally proposed. And obviously then it had the same thing with the vegetation of that. Oak planting was done exactly how it was proposed. Shrub planting, exactly how it was proposed. Tree planting, exactly how it was proposed. And basically, I won't go through the rest of it, but when you got the trust fund grant, and besides this grant, there's a certain stipulation out there that this property has to be managed for game species, deer range improvement. There can be other things, but that's what got you the extra points in the trust fund to put it up over the top because there was a lot of acquisition proposals that year. So that's a commitment the county made 2 different times. And I keep hearing this thing between hardwoods and not hardwoods. And basically when you sell timber in the UP, especially to the mill here locally, you got hardwoods and softwoods. Basically when you're dealing with pulp. And anything with a leaf, deciduous tree is hardwood. Anything with a needle pretty much is softwood. So the other thing, so you guys just know up there, there's 1,035 acres of aspen in varying age classes and 22 separate stands. There's 86 acres of northern hardwoods consisting of 7 separate stands. There's also 2 acres of natural grasslands. So those first 2, obviously there can be some timber harvest out of that. I wouldn't expect much coming out of those northern hardwoods because when they sold it, they hit it pretty hard. They did a good job, but they hit it pretty hard. Lowland, wetland habitats, you got 172 acres of cedar for winter range, cover consisting in 12 separate stands. That can never be cut. If the county cuts it, they're going to be in total violation of that original grant to purchase that property for the deer range that needs to be there for their winter cover. 18 acres of swamp conifers, that can be cut, but it already has when they got done. 6 acres of marsh, there's nothing to cut, it's a marsh. 76 acres of lowland hardwoods consisting in 5 separate stands. Some of those have died now because they're small because of the emerald ash borer, but there wasn't really a lot of timber lost there. 5 acres of lowland brush, I'm not going to do much with that unless Billerud kicks in, the biomass to their turbines, which will be good, but you're not going to get much out of 5 acres. You'll get a lot more at the airport. And 8 vernal ponds exist on that and 4 pond creations to provide a water supply. It's a long way from the river. That was one other thing when the small grant was put together, that what were the 3 things? You need cover, food, and water. And obviously On dry years, the water is all, you have to go all the way to the Ford River, which is making a lot of the does and fawns move quite a distance to get the water set up for predators. Issues during the implementation of this is basically weather. That's the only problems we had. Getting the seeding done was interesting. I thought we were going to have to do it. I was so glad we didn't. But the first bid that came in, the seed, can't remember what it was. It wasn't much, 12 acres, which turned into 13 and where was I here? And then 8 miles of trails, which could have been frost seeded, was 142 or 180,000. I can't remember. Well, you could have did that with a hand crank seeder and did it for a lot less. So we waited 2 years, put it back up, and we had a local farmer who volunteered to seed this, and he did a wonderful job. He bought a brand new no-till machine to do it in. The problem was he's also a truck driver. So we didn't realize at the time of bid, he could only do it on weekends. And guess what happened for most of the weekends? Pouring rain on clay soils. So we finally got it in. Some of it's going to have to be refrost seeded, and UP Whitetails realizes that. But everything else got accomplished. And then, of course, you guys are required, obviously, for the trails, so people can walk them, not to let the grass grow up and all that. So basically once or twice a year, they're going to have to be mowed or cut. And otherwise, that's it. The other thing I wanted to put in here, and I just want to refresh people's memory, Delta County Forest Land Policies and Regulations. And it says adopted by the Delta Conservation District in 2018. That did not get adopted without this board adopting it first. Okay, so I came in front of this board, and a lot of this are state regulations, federal regulations, because we did have a lot of problems out there when we first took over. We removed almost 180 junk blinds that were just left there. Some of them were there for a long time with timber growing through them. Some of them were just tipped over and smashed. And so we had a lot of cleanup to do there too. But we did get a contractor to be able to, I don't know how he worked the deal, but he didn't charge us for any of the, once we hauled it out and gave it to him, he didn't charge us for any of the landfill costs. So everything that's on here, yes, we've enforced it. We've enforced it because we're in charge and we're responsible. So, if you ever give it to somebody else, I suggest, if the county board still wants this, you either junk it and let it go back to what it was, personal use on whatever they want, or following these. So there was a lot of controversy at first over these. It died down a little bit, and then every now and then it raises its head again. So these are what you guys approved 100%, or who was ever on the board, at that time. Just wanted to make sure that, we're not out there just enforcing things that we think should be there or not there. So, but I know Commissioner Moyle wanted me to address the cost and also what a hardwood is versus a soft.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Mattson?
I'd just like to say I appreciate what you've done up there.
Thank you. Been a lot of work, but it's been fun.
Commissioner View, your wheels are rolling.
Always. Good job.
All right, thank you.
I got a question, right? The people of Delta County, for less than $40,000, secured 1,400 acres as county proper to be used in future endeavors to help put money in the county coffers.
Basically, if you look at the grant and you look at what was agreed to UP Whitetails and other things to put in the county coffers for your campgrounds and parks, it was supposed to be a way that when financial times hit hard, and I'm guessing that's going to happen again, if you just follow politics and everything else, is that when that happens, you won't ever be to the position where you don't have money to fix your buildings. You don't have money for maintenance there. You don't have money for other things. With that and the amount of camping revenue that comes in, they will self-sustain themselves, as we predicted, by 2029. That's what I truly believe. I don't believe there'll be unnecessarily any more money that has to come on a yearly basis to do that. The other thing is when the county takes this over on January 1st, I know John and Steve heard that at the meeting a week ago, is that I don't believe the county will have to kick out these 50,000 that went to 75,000. And the reason is you own it. They're your people working there. when the district had it, we were independent, so we had to get something because of the darn fiscal year. If the fiscal year started in May, we were good to go, but it starts in October and there's no money coming in till the end of March. So and if you don't do a lot of maintenance, I mean, we've done some, he's going to need to do a little. You might be able to efficiently run it right now. But that's the reason, the original reason that Dave Schultz, Tom Elegert, myself, and I know at the time, like I said, Commissioner Melner and Commissioner Rivard drove around with me, at least a lot on the Cornell property, looking for the difference between true aspen, which would be trembling aspen or big tooth, and balsam poplar, because it's huge. And the mill doesn't want balsam poplar. They take it, but they want pure aspen. And now that the new machines are going to come in, they're going to take a 70-30 onto the hardwoods. So I think it's going to be very positive in the future. And I don't believe very shortly you will have to put money in. That doesn't mean who's ever running it. Independent county can't come to you with a special project and say, do you have the money? Like we always did. If you didn't, okay, you go try to find it, or you grab a shovel yourself, or because there might be some things, because full hookups, let's say it like it is. It's awful nice to pull up, put your sewer down, let it go, and not have to put it on the tote wagon and take it back and forth, how many days, especially if you're staying long. So there's probably be special projects that you guys will want to do, but if you have the money and you have the community support, it's good.
Yeah, I've just got one quick question. I'm not aware of what a vernal pond is.
Basically, a vernal pond is a pond. They can occur in nature, or you can create them. They're very shallow and they come and they go. So they dry right up, but usually in the spring and the fall, they're unbelievably important to all kinds of wildlife and vertebrates and everything else that are animals.
I got a question.
Yeah, where are you at, John?
On that road easement as you're going in
This here?
from Truax, the one that goes to the right,
Yes.
is there a gate or anything on that road
No.
that you can get over in that corner?
Yep. No gates.
There's no gates?
No gates.
Okay.
Absolutely no gates.
And the
So,
one going.
so the red and the green are open all year round. Sorry about that. The one that you go up and go to the left.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when we.
Then when
always
you
went
go
on.
through here, there's a bunch of private camps over there. And they all have easements too, I think. I don't know if they all do, but I know a bunch of them do. Okay. Then if you go to the right, the only person and who has an easement there is basically Lime Timber. There's no private camps going that way right now until you get right out on 426, but you can't get out because of that. But the reason that 80 is down there too, and I don't know if you can remember this, Commissioner, but remember when we were looking at this and trying to decide what size this was? Plum Creek at the time did not want to leave a 40 here and a 40 there because somebody might want to buy it, but then they weren't going to pay their price because no matter what, if they leave a 40 anywhere, they got to have an easement to get there, right? Because they're never going to sell it. It'll be landlocked. So that's why this ended up weird. This 80 up here was supposed to be in the deal. You see where I'm pointing, John?
Yep.
Okay, so when it wasn't in the deal, because we were trying to keep it to 1,400 because of the trust fund amount that we could apply for and different things, is this was some really nice aspen land down here. So then I just asked Plum Creek, can we move that 80 down here? And that's why that got the way it was. And that's why we request the easement, to go this way. Now you can go a lot farther here too, onto their property, but eventually you're going to hit that marsh and that creek where there's a gigantic gate. And if you know the
Wasn't
landowner,
there-
you can get through,
Wasn't
but if
there
you
a
don't.
beaver pond or
Yep. Yeah, I think I
gravel pit in there too?
yeah, I
that
brought
we've
you
seen?
guys there. Yep.
Yeah.
The gravel pits before that, then you hit the big beaver pond. And as you go across the creek and that, he's got the gate right on top. So, I mean, you're lucky if you can walk around it, let alone drive around it on anything. So it's set pretty good.
Commissioners? No, sir, you cannot. You could, at general public comment, maybe ask. I want to thank you for your time and
Sure.
for your service to this county. And any other questions? If not, we'll let you go. Very good, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
I'd like to move to place this material on file.
Motion by Commissioner Barron,
Second.
supported by Commissioner Peterson. Discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed. This is placed on file. We are moving on to general orders of business. Unfinished business would be the process of hiring a new administrator. The first up would be the job description from the Personnel Committee.
And Commissioner View did a lot of work on this, so if you want to talk about it, I will let you talk about it. Actually, the only thing I really wanted to do on it was change the 3 to 5 year to 5 year.
In terms of
5 year.
Experience.
Can't find it right now.
No rush, John.
Education, not 3 to 5, it was gonna be 5 years,
Experience,
Work experience.
but otherwise,
work experience.
huh?
Work experience, not
Work
education.
experience, that's what it was. Otherwise, I'll let Commissioner View talk about it. He's done a lot of work on it.
Sure.
Just give me a second, please.
Sure.
Trying to find the right documentation. All right, at our meeting today, I did a breakdown of some ideas I had and some research. It includes 6 pages of additional stuff that I asked Ashley to send out to all the commissioners, and I know you wouldn't have had time to identify some of the stuff in there. But if you look at the actual items that we did during the Personnel Committee, it talked mostly about finances. And the actual job description from the county was administrator/finance. So I wanted to keep it that way. Even if, just to get somebody here that knows finances, not to eliminate any jobs or anything, but if you have 2 people that are very versed in finance, so be it. Then we switched. See if I have that breakdown right here on the I'm looking for the qualifications that we talked about. Experience. The first meeting, we had a very vague idea what we wanted. Today, we decided and agreed. I don't know, Ashley, do you have that written or should I read what I have here? Because you codified it to flow real good as minimum
Let me just pull it
experience
up.
and training. So could you read that if you have it? If not, I can
Nope,
read what I have
it. Let
here.
me just pull it up. So we wrote.
It was like a master's degree in public
So
administration.
we changed, prior to this, it was a master's degree. So we have changed it, the education for a master's degree or bachelor's degree in public administration or related field. And also requires 5 years relevant professional experience working in public administration or public supervisory capacity.
And what was it before? You have that?
It was 3 to 5.
I don't have that up.
It was master's degree only, not public administration, and it was also preferred. You know, preferred, and a bachelor's degree was listed first. outside of the master's. I had to do a little research and see what we were talking about between a master's and a bachelor. And then during my research, checking college degree stuff, I found out that the public administration part was the most important. Because there's a lot of issues that in public policy and dealing with county business is very different than private business. And they need to make sure they follow the right procedure. So our county needs to be protected with somebody that has that type of experience is what the personnel committee thought. Is that correct, John? Isn't that what the motion we went through?
So what you're looking at is switching from 3 to 5 years of education.
5
5
years of
work.
relevant,
Education, I'm sorry, relevant government, I'm sorry. Yeah,
5 years of relevant professional experience working in a public administration or public supervisor capacity.
Very, very good. So duly and totally correctly noted. Commissioners, comment from anybody, Commissioner, starting with Peterson? Or you wanted me, I mean, to get Commissioner Barron, I just wanted to get you guys, first of all, thank you to the Personnel Committee, because I know you guys have been burning the midnight oil on this and working hard, and it's duly appreciated. Anybody want to jump in on this?
Well, I might as well start. On your work experience, you're requiring 5 years of relevant government experience. There's that blocks out a lot of potential people for applying. I think experience in administration can cross over between public and private. I think the fact that there's 5 of us in governance here, and I think all of us have been in the private sector, would be an indication of that. So I think just putting 5 years is a little bit much, and I'd rather see it more open to something where the board can make a decision on the experience that they would bring forth.
So in terms of experience, sufficient amount or a time deemed sufficient by the board?
By the board, yes.
I checked with 3 other counties and they go as high as 8 years. Experience.
And I checked with a lot of places and it's even more for some of them. But remember one thing, a master's degree in public administration, they have a key knowledge of policy and public affairs. Plus an understanding how policies impact business, the economy, and government agencies.
I would submit that for
Well,
consideration,
well,
or you still, I'm sorry, sir. You
well-
pause and I can't tell sometimes. I apologize.
I lose my train of thought every time too. But I guess what I'm trying to get at, how many administrators have we had in the last 8 years?
I can tell you, I've worked under 5 of them or with 5 of them.
You prove my point. I want to be able to, this is urgent to me. But I also need to take my time and make sure we get the best candidate possible. And if this first round doesn't turn out the best candidate, we can always start from square one again and lower the requirements that the county wants. But I don't want to lower the requirements personally myself.
I have a question in terms of education. Would you consider, any of you, if you have somebody who's got a bachelor's and is working on a master's, I know many school districts or many even private companies will do that if a person is working on a master's. What's your opinion on that?
Oh, that was brought up at the committee today, that if they have a bachelor's degree, we could give them so much time to get to that second level. That's not an issue. But remember, a bachelor's degree in public administration is actually entry level qualifications. It's basic bottom line. Check with any college, any course that offers that stuff. And I just don't feel in my position here that I want to go through 4 or 5 other administrators, even if I'm not here in the next 10 years. And there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be considered. So I'm just recommending that we're not ready to throw that job description out, even though I would love to have thrown it out 2 weeks ago. just to move forward with it. But the administrator controller breakdown and ideas that I emailed everyone this afternoon, or Ashley emailed. I would just like every commissioner to look at that. And if we can call another meeting or send this to the personnel committee with your top 5 or 10 things out of each area, because I have avoid unrealistic requirements. And what that means is if you expect 5 years of related experience and you're willing to accept one, you need to put 1 year. Don't put something in there that we're not going to follow through with, because then you are changing the pool of candidates that come. Also, nice to have stuff, preference to have a master's degree, but we prefer this, or that stuff doesn't work. If you do your research, talk to professors, talk to other people. John Melner has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different counties from the UP and downstate that I read of how they advertise their administrators, qualifications, and what to look for. I had, what did I say, Ashley? 15 pages I showed you?
Correct.
I have it down to 6. 6 of the best stuff that I personally thought we should look at. And I'm open, just like you are. Show me what you have. Show me what you suggest. Show me your data that you did that can complement what I did.
Other commissioners, Commissioner Peterson, anything?
I just looking at, and I kind of agree with Commissioner Barron on this, that 5 years experience as a public administrator or supervisory capacity. I think that there's very good candidates that could come out of the private sector that maybe have not worked in government, but are very versed in the very things we're looking for. I don't think necessarily we have to just limit it to government experience.
Commissioner Melnar?
You know, again, I'll say other counties are a lot more than what we are, what I looked at, and that's what we've been going with is 3 to 5. 5 years is not outrageous.
No, it's Commissioner Barron.
Well, a couple of things have been brought up. It was said that we'd be lowering our standards, which if we looked at people with more experience in the private sector. I have a little bit of a problem with that because you talked about regulation. If you're in the private sector, you do have to experience a little bit of regulation, and it's coming from the government sector. So it's not a lowering of standards. I think it's broadening the field. The private sector is where the wealth is generated, and the public sector benefits from the confiscatory taxes on the generated wealth. So it's not in reverse.
No, I don't. Can I speak?
Yes, please.
I don't disagree with you, but then I want the commissioners sitting here to tell me the difference between the importance of a public administrator and a private business administrator. What is the number one difference between both of them? They all do the same thing, but there's one main difference that somebody in the private sector does different than somebody in the public sector.
You already know the answer to that, so please.
Well, I knew it a long time ago. I was a businessman. No, I want to see where I hate using that word because where everybody stands and their knowledge into saying that we're lowering our standards. And I think it's a kind of twist on words because I said in the beginning, we start out with the high standards for the citizens of the community. If something doesn't work out because our standards are so high, which I don't think they are, we can lower them after the first round.
All right, gentlemen. Hey, I've been through this a few times, from Nora View to yes, thank you. We had Tom Boyne as an interim, and then we hired, in my opinion, Brian Bergman, who was an outstanding administrator. And then we went to Phil Strom, and then we went to Emily DeSalvo. What we are doing is casting a net in the water, and we are attempting to headhunt and get people to come in. All right. We don't have to give every person who gives us an application an interview. There's going to be a process of looking at these and deciphering who our top candidates would be. So we can split hairs on this. Somebody could say, you need 5 years of public administration. I would kind of concur with Mr. Barron that, somebody might have some private experience going on. What you're doing is attracting candidates. And I don't want to bind ourselves by simply losing a candidate if could be potentially excellent. If we could put the verbiage in that doesn't mean you have to want to interview that candidate. It's just going to be a wider net we cast. So the board, in my opinion, I would like you to consider adopting the language that in terms of experience, it could state 5 years of public experience or a time and experience considered adequate, the board.
You answer my question and I'll vote yes.
If I,
Go ahead.
I may, what I see in having worked in the private sector most all my life is somebody coming out of the private sector not only has to deal with governmental issues, but they also have to deal with keeping a profit coming in, keeping the business solvent. I see that in my own opinion as an advantage over coming out of the government sector and not having this experience that happens. Now, if I'm working in the government sector, I've got to worry about government regulations as well as the government administrator. But I also have to look at keeping the business solvent, making a profit. I see advantages to that. And that's just my opinion.
Okay, so what we have is in terms of sought after experience, we have a couple of different ways we can go here. There's more time for discussion, so I'm not going to be seen as not allowing or offering people to talk as much as they'd like to. A couple of different ways we can go. We can simply put 5 years of public administration experience, or we can tag that with or a time deemed necessary by the board. So what is your pleasure, commissioners? Unless there's additional option or questions.
Now, there's another option. I'll go with Plan B. And I emailed that to all the commissioners today. On the Leo board for Michigan Works. They have an excellent plan for nothing to help us through every step of the way. The only thing I'm afraid of is it's going to kind of follow suit to what I'm recommending now. And they'll do testing. They'll do every aspect of it, advertising, testing, through the Michigan talent stuff. I didn't have a chance to read it, and I don't know if anyone else did, but I did skim it. And I like what they're willing to offer us. I talked to them up in Houghton. And where we're at a disadvantage here, we probably have a potential in-house person that's going to apply for the job. And human resources is your number one person you go to. But there would be a conflict of interest. So I did a little bit of investigating. And that's why I came up with all these additional options from other human resource positions throughout the state of Michigan. And then I've been waiting for that Michigan Works lady. Her name is, I can't think of it offhand. She finally emailed it to me today. 12th hour, while I was on my bus run. I got done with the bus run and I just hurry up and emailed it to everyone. Can we just table this for a day or so? And if we decide, just so we can look at the information that just came in. And if everyone could not discuss it outside of the meeting, but let our chair know that we're ready for a meeting and ready to make a decision after we check all the information. How long do we need to call a special meeting?
We need 18 hours, I believe.
Okay, we can have something done yet this week. That's all I'm saying. Just let's see what this from Michigan Works lady has to
I can't
offer.
attend anything until Friday. Unless it's by.
Well, we can still do stuff with 4 people.
Absolutely.
I'm
Folks,
I'm
I
not
need
saying
it
that,
quiet in the audience, please.
just saying, if we want to move forward with this after we review what the personnel committee sent all the commissioners, and especially what Michigan Works has offered for us. It's 4 pages. And it's also the screening process. I talked to a guy that does multi-million-dollar projects, private sector. And he told me, he said, we find our best candidates when we hire project managers and other high-level positions by testing. And I guess there's a way Michigan Works does it. You just give a simple test. You probably won't even be able to figure out what they're trying to get at, but they analyze what that person's best at. And it's free.
Mr. Barron.
Yeah, we are running into a bit of a time issue, but you have some more information. You sent it this afternoon, but I haven't had a chance to even look at it.
I just appreciate us tabling it for whatever.
Well, is it 2 weeks from today? We do have another meeting, another regular meeting on the 4th.
Okay, that,
Or do
2
what?
weeks ago on March 7th, we waited, we put the kind of the pressure on you guys to come up with stuff for today. And I'm not saying I won't go 2 more weeks, but
I don't want to,
But we
Chair.
already have something. All we gotta do is okay it.
okay, there seems to be some discourse or some talking about the experience level. And that seems again, so we have a motion, or, if you got, somebody wants to approve what the personnel committee has submitted verbatim, or do you want an addendum to that? I guess that would be the issue then.
I guess I'll make a motion that we approve what was submitted with the 5-year experience.
So switch, if I understand your motion, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, Commissioner. So moved by Commissioner Melnar that we accept what the personnel committee has submitted. And in terms of experience, we are asking for 5 years of public administration experience. Is that correct, or did I put anything in your mouth? That's correct?
Yep.
I have a motion from Commissioner Melnar. Is there a second?
I'll support.
Support. Now, do we have discussion? Which we're going to come right back to, I suppose. I would like to see the caveat in extension of that 5 years or time deemed necessary or considerable by the board. But that's just my discussion. Then we have a motion on the floor.
well, I have 100% support for the one item that Mr. Commissioner Melnar is talking about. But there are other items and processes that I don't think we looked at fully yet.
We are simply
So I'll
voting on the
vote it.
language submitted, sir. That's all.
I know, and it's not proper yet, in my opinion.
Very good. Anybody, commissioners, anybody else with a comment?
I still believe that that narrows it down, narrows our field down too much. The private sector should be welcomed in applying for this.
How do you know if we don't try it?
Uh,
How do you know how many people we're gonna get?
you're limiting your field by the amount of experience in a government entity. And
No
we
public
need to be more
administration.
inviting for the private sector in that experience.
Commissioner Peterson,
Let Mr. View go first.
Commissioner View.
Thank you. Never mind. I'll be arguing till it's bedtime. So let's just go ahead.
I would just like to point out, if we accept experience, people that apply have private experience. That doesn't mean if people apply that have public experience, we can't give that more consideration. If we've got one person that comes in, he's got 5 years of private experience in administration. And we have somebody that comes in with 5 years of government or public experience in administration. We can't put a premium on the public experience. Like as Commissioner Barron said, we're just opening up the field to bring in more talent. Doesn't mean we have to accept any of them.
If I can relay a little experience that I've had, the president of Bay College, Laura Coleman, I was on that board when she was selected. As I mentioned before, I was chair of the presidential search committee. The push was from faculty and other staff and most of the board members that the candidate necessary item was to have a PhD. Well, Bay College is a pretty big business. I'm not sure what their total budget is then, but it was well over $10 million when I was there, but it's been 15 years. And as part of his committee chair, you have to speak before the faculty and staff. And that was something that they were putting forth. And that was one of the questions. It had to be we have to have a PhD. Well, reality is Laura Coleman does have a PhD, but what made the most sense to be looking for was a master's in business administration. And she has that also. And I did give a talk before the faculty and administration about that. I said, that is important. I said, if the individual that rises to the top happens to have a PhD, just consider that a little extra. But in reality, these are businesses that are running, whether they're the private sector or in the public, and they need to be run from that standpoint. And I believe that's what we need to be having here. And Laura Coleman, actually, I know Laura well, is that she had a tremendous amount of experience in the private sector. She was in sales for quite a period of time. So there's candidates out there like this. So thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and support. Nancy, could you please read the motion again so there's no confusion?
Moved by Commissioner Melner and seconded by Commissioner Peterson to approve the job description as submitted by the Personnel Committee with 5 years public administration experience.
Roll call, please.
Melner,
Yes.
View,
No.
Barron,
No.
Peterson,
No.
and Moyle.
No. So what we will do, or what you can do, please excuse me, is if the commissioner wanted to submit language to make an addendum regarding that, it could read public or private experience. And if somebody wanted to conditionally add additional caveat to the time, that's up to you. But
I'll make a motion to table this until we all research the information that was given us today.
we have a motion by Commissioner View to table this until we can get at the information that was given us today. Support. We have support by Commissioner Melner. Additional discussion, please.
I just want to make the comment that I'm trying to ensure the public that we don't have individual commissioners moving about and trying to do their own thing. That's all I care about. I want to at least spend, it's urgent, but spend enough time to do it right.
Could you clarify, Commissioner, what you mean by that? Individual commissioners all doing their own things.
Well, we all have a different
Approach. Yes.
approach to things, and my approach is documentation, research, talking to people, talking in the community, looking at what other people have been successfully doing, getting the best administrator, controller, whatever they can get, and it's worked for them. Matter of fact, I'm already signed up for Indeed and all these other places. I'm getting all the job applications from other people searching the web, looking for these types of jobs. Everything that's open, I get to open them and look at them and stuff like that. So I'm really doing a lot of behind the scenes work. And I would just feel much better after you read this And I think it's in the packet now, correct? Was this sent out late today, Ashley, or not? So the public can see it too. And then we come back as quick as possible. We don't have to wait till the next meeting, but as soon as, that's all I'm asking for, and that's why I made this motion. I want you there though, so we can pick something early next week.
Gonna be the one to put the fly in the ointment. The commissioners, Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Melner. You know, I don't mind waiting if
It's not waiting, it's researching and then.
if I may. I don't mind whether it's for research, reading, inevitably we would wait because that would take time, but that doesn't mean we would wait doing nothing. If I can get a commitment that we would do something then and move on something at this next meeting, because I don't want something else to come up and we're further delayed.
I agree 100%. Like I said, we need to get this done quickly. Maybe if you would give us your input on what was presented late today, and the personnel committee would meet again and refine it according to the input and come back with basically what we have, with your input into it from the information that is submitted. So that it's not a whole board thing and we can kind of work one-on-one, and the public's welcome to them personnel committee meetings. And it would be hashed out by us and Ashley and the rest of the people, and we'll have it right to the basic format.
Mr. Barron, you're going to speak.
Well, the time issue is climbing on us here, but I would look at this as if we put this temporary delay in, that if we're personnel committee meeting can meet here between now and next Tuesday, because you would be available on Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
That would amend your motion to table or delay this for further study and set up a special meeting on next Tuesday. So
Commissioner, would you consider that?
I made the motion. I won't consider it, but I will make a new motion after that we do meet on Tuesday to finalize it.
We have a motion on the floor, and so we either have to vote for that. If the mover who moved and who seconded it is not going to withdraw, then we have to move on this motion.
Right. Well, I'd like us to move on this before we decide on something else. And I have no issue with having that meeting on Tuesday in a separate motion. That's all.
was separate. Well, I was okay, but I was looking, you could amend your motion so we could do it all as one.
Willing to do that, amend your motion so we can do it all as one?
So moved. But remember, next week is most people have spring break. So I was trying to get it done this week, but it's not advantageous to do two motions. Isn't it the same?
I think it's a,
Results is the same.
read the motion on the floor, please.
Okay, moved by Commissioner View and seconded by Commissioner Melner to table the job description, administrator job description, to review additional information.
And re-meet next. Whenever.
Well, then you have to put in that the personnel committee has to meet by
It would not be a part of the motion. That would just be a separate activity.
okay.
And you don't need a motion to meet. You two can meet whenever you want.
I mean, remember, we only had 4 hours to do this very important thing, and we had 3 other things to do during the same time. So, and you know, it's a lot of time and it takes a lot of thought into it, not counting what I did on the side. All right, just to get it going, I'll amend the motion, adding that caveat that
We meet in 1 week.
we meet within 1 week to finalize and move forward with this.
Commissioner Mellor, do you support that?
Yeah, you'll have to support it, so.
I just came in my head now. And I think what we should do is actually take the contract that we have right now, or the job description that we have right now, have a meeting of the whole, and all 5 of us discuss this thing.
That could be next Tuesday if you want, or
And I mean, this way we're not going to a personnel meeting, coming back, somebody don't like it, then we keep going on. We have a meeting of a whole where all five of us are together and go down through each line
okay,
and describe
I like what you're saying.
and get it done and be done with this.
Commissioner View, if you withdraw your motion, I have a way out of this quickly that I don't think will ruffle your feathers. You can always reinsert your motion. You know, I'm not
Yeah,
trying
but
to
I have
trick
support
you.
now.
You'll get support.
I might
You'll get
lose my
from
support.
someone, sir. All right, I'm not gonna do that to you.
What, can I just think for a second? I'm trying to think of,
Okay, so
The-
basically what Commissioner Melnar is doing is talking about, let's table this. Okay, let's have a committee of the whole meeting. I'm thinking Tuesday, where we can just simply go line by line, and I like that idea.
if we look
It
at it
could be long, but-
realistically, no, it would be. This wasn't done overnight.
Bring it with, and we just keep discussing.
Everybody
until we-
has it.
until
Okay.
We come up with some kind of a
I agree.
And then
Uh,
when you,
job description that we all agree with.
and when would you approve it then?
We would prove it at the next board meeting.
April 4, probably. Or if we could call them.
Can we have experts come in at that committee of the whole if we can have them
Fine
speak?
experts, Commissioner.
Other departments, Michigan Works, the Human Resource Department from them.
If you want to invite people to that committee of the whole.
To help us, to guide us through this, to be facilitators, to show the importance of what each line means. Because I think we lose some value from our own personal perspective on what this stuff actually
Having been
means.
through this 5 times, I like your concept. But I can tell you that we are elected to make decisions for the people. And if we are so out in left field with a hockey stick, I think it'll show. I mean, but you're entirely
It
welcome
has
to
shown.
invite whoever. I don't think so, sir.
Well,
I take umbrage with that.
well, so do I, because we've had 4 or 5 administrators. I don't want 4 or 5 administrators anymore in 10 years.
The shelf life of an administrator in the Midwest for a county is approximately 3 years. That's not Dave Moyle saying it. You're the research guy, you know.
And
Right now, though, do you want to withdraw your motion, or then I'll call the question so we can vote on the motion, but we should have, as Commissioner Mellor suggested, a committee of the whole meeting so we can get very much in depth with this. And then we can have a meeting shortly thereafter to authorize it or keep going on it.
I'll withdraw it. I do like the idea of going line by line. I do
Very
like
good.
it because then everyone will know what it says and
Motion is withdrawn. I would need another one to have a committee of the whole meeting. And when you want, I'm not gonna, 1 week from tonight is possible,
John.
or, okay, could somebody make that motion?
I will make the motion that we have a committee of the whole. And only one item discuss,
On the 28th of March,
yes,
on March 28th, we could start earlier if you want.
up to the board, would.
You guys want to start in the morning, or you want to start at 4 or
Doesn't
5?
matter,
Oh, we need a second for that motion. Sorry.
but to
No, yes,
mainly go line by line to
Yep.
discuss the job description of the administrator / finance.
Right. Moved by Commissioner Melnar to have a COH committee of the whole meeting 1 week from tonight to go line with one item, and that would be to focus on this job description. Is
I'll
there a
support.
second? Supported by Commissioner Peterson. Additional discussion.
The question is, usually on Tuesday, you're coming in.
I'm fine next Tuesday.
Oh, so you're on spring break.
I'm golden.
Pick the time.
What time would you like to start, gentlemen?
personally, I think we keep it consistent to what we have here for the
5:15?
public. Yes. I'm
Sure.
not putting that in a motion, but you have to.
5:15 is fine.
Okay, so we have all those in favor of having a committee of the whole meeting 1 week from tonight at 5:15, where we have one subject, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? This motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen, for your discussion. Okay. Then we will wait on items B, C, D, and E. Am I correct with that?
I'll make a motion that we table them items till we get this committee to the whole and administrator.
Moved by Commissioner View that we table items B, C, D, and E.
Or
supported by Commissioner Melner. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That would opposed? That passes. Okay, item number 2 under old unfinished business would be interim administrator's contract. Gentlemen, commissioners? Questions regarding this?
Yes, I do.
Commissioner View, floor is yours.
Geez, what's wrong with me? This contract. I need time to look at it. It was just given, what time did we receive this? I think we received it about 12 o'clock. And I had a meeting at 1 o'clock. I had to go to work till 4:30. I have not had a chance to even look at it. And the main thing about it, why do we need a contract? And that's what I want to look at to see why, this is like an agreement that they have for a few Teamsters or something for I mean, I don't know what's in it, but it's awful lot of pages that I need to research. Not for it, I'm not against it, I need to study it.
Would you like to put this off until the 4th of April?
If it's not too inconvenient, Ashley, it doesn't matter, you're already promised something anyways, correct? No matter what we say here, even if we turn this down, you're not gonna be denied whatever
Correct.
they
The terms
promise.
have already been approved.
The what?
The terms have already been approved. That was
Not these
done.
terms. Not these
terms.
terms.
They were approved on March 7th.
Yeah.
We just got them.
The points were approved on March 7th.
Verbally.
They were applied to the contract that was written by Nancy.
Okay, but this says duties, terms, termination, severance pay, salary, benefits, medical coverage, health insurance in lieu of, unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, retirement, travel reimbursement, hours of work, dues and subscriptions, communications, indemnifications, performance evaluation, and it goes on and on. What I guess what I'm saying is, I did not know that we were approving this without seeing it. When was this written? What was the date this was actually written?
Last week.
Before we approved it?
No,
After we approved it?
you approved the terms of the contract
Isn't this the terms?
and so I put it into the contract form using the contract that we use for administrators, but putting in the terms that were approved last on the 7th.
Do you know, basically interim administrators, they get that increase in pay, and I knew we decided that. But you don't end up with a whole new contract for them. They live under the basics of what they were hired for before, all the benefits, all the terms of employment, work hours. It's not a separate contract, and maybe this works good. But I haven't read it. That's my
Make a
issue.
motion to table it till April 4th if you'd like, sir.
Would that be okay? I would move that. We'll see if it gets voted in. Yes, I'll make a motion that we table this till the next commission meeting, April 4th.
Motion by
Support.
Commissioner View, support by Commissioner Melnar, that this would be tabled until the April the 4th meeting, so commissioners can have an additional amount of time to study it and research it. Okay, additional discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, Commissioner. And so now we have new finance policy. Finance Committee, it would be you, Commissioner Barron, and Commissioner Peterson.
Well, you've received, but I'll read it. Finance Committee procedure policy is items recommended from the Finance Committee are to be presented to the Board of Commissioners as new business with no action taken. The next Board of Commissioners meeting, such item will return as unfinished business for action. Exemptions for this procedural policy are those of emergency expenditures at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners. Very simple.
Very succinct. Gentlemen, I would need a motion to adopt this.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Barron. Or supported by Commissioner Peterson. Additional discussion.
Is the reason for doing it? I like it, but I mean, what was the impetus that we had to do this now and it wasn't covered in the policy
Sure.
before?
What I've seen, and Commissioner Barron will jump in anytime he wants, or Commissioner Peterson will, is what we were trying to get away from is having a finance meeting on Monday and having that go to the board on Tuesday for approval, which is kind of right up your alley, Commissioner View. You want some time to digest it and look around at it. So
I said that.
and that's a compliment. It's not a pejorative. This is basically taking the rush out of additional one out of our spending, with the exception of if the board feels like something is an emergency. So it gives the board and the commissioners the ability to say, no, wait a minute, we need to have that by this time.
The only thing I would like to make the comment on that, I do support it. And I am in favor of it. But what determines what goes to the finance committee? I mean, when somebody comes here and asks for extra money or stuff like it, does everything go to the finance committee now? On any increase of,
I think any expenditure over $1,000.
It depends on the type of expenditure.
well, that's what I'm saying is, do we have a policy that we've
We
always
do
been?
have a purchasing and,
Well, this ain't
pre-
just purchasing though, is it?
Not at all.
no, this would be any finance dollar. Typically goes to the finance committee.
Okay. But have we been following that part policy right
We've-
to a T on every
we've
issue
been
since I've
working-
been on it?
We've been working in that direction.
Have we been doing it since I've been on the board?
No,
Everything except for my contract. If that's what, I'm assuming that's what you're pointing out.
No, I'm not. I'm just, I just asked a blanket question. Has everything been following that procedure?
Yes.
commissioners, any Commissioner Peterson? You? Commissioner Milner?
I'm fine.
Barron?
Let's go. Let's get it done.
Okay, roll call, please. Clerk Prisraki.
Okay, Melner,
Yes.
View,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
and Moyle.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. That will.
Pulling
Okay.
together.
Now we have new business, payment of bills. Thank you.
I move the payment of bills.
Support.
I have to
we
read
have
my
a-
little
can we
statement
have a-
here.
The ditty on how much we owe first.
I have examined all claims presented and recommend payment of the following, and that the county clerk be directed to issue orders on the county treasurer to the claimants for the amounts allowed. We have grand total of bills is $1,487,469.52. And commissioner expenses of $778.90.
We have movement by Commissioner Barron. I believe it was Commissioner Melner for support. Support. Okay, our just additional discussion.
Is that just for 2 weeks, correct?
Yes,
So just, you can kind of figure out what our total budget would be. So it's quite high. We need somebody very important in there. I know I'm off track, but I just wanted to make that point.
All right, very good. Clerk Prisraki, roll call.
Melner,
Yes.
View,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
and Moyle.
Yes. Thank you very much. Also, we need item number 200, new business, out of county travel for MAC conference. This will be in Lansing, and it is I think, a fine opportunity to do some learning about the Michigan Association of Counties. Ashley?
this may, like you said, the MAC conference this year takes place in Lansing, April 24th through the 26th. I'd like to note if you're interested in attending, please contact Tracy and administration as soon as possible so we can get rooms booked and registration completed. We're looking for the board to approve out of county travel for the commissioners.
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Melner,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Barron. Additional discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This item will pass. Stipend for Brandon, our IT director.
I asked for that to be put
Very
on,
good.
correct? What I did is, talking around and talking with Brandon, I don't think he appreciates me put him in the spotlight a little bit, but I felt an obligation that the situation we're in, he is putting in a lot of extra time. And I'm not talking in his day job, his night job here. I mean, he is helping us out, even though he's an exempt employee. If we want him to work 80 hours a week, he needs to work 80 hours a week. And I'm not saying he doesn't sometimes, but this additional duty that he's doing on the side, I would like it to go to the finance committee then. And come up with a fair compensation for every time that he needs to come here until we get something set up in either, what is this called here? Zoom. That's why he's here. And I know there's people in the county that like Zoom, but I looked at the records. I went to the office today and there were like, I can't recall, 80, 90 people using Zoom with only one comment. And he said if Zoom wasn't here, he wouldn't have to spend the extra 3-4 hours setting it up because everything else would be automatic.
I am no favor of, but I will say that there are people in this county with disabilities that rely on Zoom to keep them up to what we're doing. So,
Well, they can watch that other what is it called?
YouTube.
YouTube Live is the same thing.
I'm not disagreeing.
And they can call in, see. All I'm saying is, what is the value? Zoom is not required. by
No,
the
it's
state.
not, sir. It was brought in during COVID.
Right, and most counties and other government agencies have cut it out, cities and everything.
Our IT director advised us to ditch Zoom. It did
And I
not-
was against them at that time, but then I did my research and for the value it adds is a lot for some people, but it's very minute and it entails a lot of work to do that when we already offer it a different way and we can come up with a different plan where if they have questions, they can call in. I mean, I was against you the first time, but
It's not me. I mean, it's
well, no,
it's Zoom. Don't
I'm
go
using that as just a blanket statement that you agreed with Brandon. You know, hey, I recommend, Brandon says it is good.
I
Well,
respect I respect your, my commissioner.
I didn't have blind loyalty like
We're
what
off
that
on-
was. No, but it has to do with,
Off on a
This-
different tangent here, but I agree with you. Talking about,
all right, let's move his stipend to extra pay to the finance
Okay.
committee to see if it's viable.
we have a motion by Commissioner View to move an additional stipend for Brandon to the Finance Committee.
I'll support that.
Supported by Commissioner Peterson. Additional comment or discussion?
Just make sure it's for each time he attends here. It's not
That-
something permanent.
We'll
It's-
have them, so all those in favor,
Well,
oh,
I
I'm
got-
sorry, John. Sorry,
Who ran our Zoom before?
nobody really, I
Emily.
think
The county
administration.
administrator.
Huh?
Emily,
Administrator did.
Emily did?
Yes.
All right, very good. So we have a motion and a support on the floor. Any additional discussion? All those in favor of pushing this to the Finance Committee for them to look at signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. This one goes through.
Chair Moyle,
Yes.
can I ask that we take a break?
Oh, yes,
Like a
okay.
5-minute break.
I would like to recess this meeting for 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes, so people can use the bathroom or stretch their legs. And we'll come back in 5 minutes and thank you. We are going to begin the meeting again. Thank you. And we are moving on to item number 4 under new business, which is outreach, basically talking to the radio. And anybody, we don't have a policy on that. I'm curious if any of the commissioners are interested in drafting a policy or discussing a policy on that.
I'm not, but I'm willing to make a motion that we become a sanctuary First Amendment county. I'm taking this seriously because I don't want anyone to be restricted on who can talk and who can't talk.
Are they
What-
restricted now? I mean, I respect I think
Well, I want to be a
Sanctuary.
sanctuary First Amendment county. The only exception would be the elected officials' confidentiality statements have to be,
if you're
Are
interested
you
in
here
drafting a
to-
resolution, I'd love to hear it seriously.
what do you mean a resolution? That's my motion.
Oh, you would want that without a resolution? That's fine.
Well, what a resolution do? I don't want to restrict anyone from talking anytime they want with anyone, radio, TV, the press. We're all elected to this board to speak for the people. I may speak differently than Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Melner, vice versa with yous, but we speak on behalf of the people. And I don't think there should be any restriction if we're offered a slot to talk.
I don't think there is. I mean, I think there's different opinions, but there's nothing that you can point to that says that a commissioner is restricted. Warpole, if Warpole invites you, I mean,
Well, that's why I want to make that motion that we make ourselves able to speak anytime, anywhere we want. I will agree to making it maybe a 6 months agreement that we rotate and do it in an orderly fashion, but not to take the right from anyone to speak out. A memorandum or something that says, hey, we can mutually agree that we'll rotate and speak with other county officials, so forth on the radio, but not just to say it's going to be one person over another. That's all.
I don't think there's that statement or that
Well, I took
policy
it that
writing.
way.
In the past, what has typically happened is the chairman has gone on either with the chairman by himself or herself, or an administrator with the chairman. Clerk Presraki just said she would be interested, and so
I did it for years.
and do it very well, I might add. Are there any
What do you want?
what do I want?
You put this on there. What
I
are you
want-
asking for?
I want your opinion. I want people to find out what they want. I want the board to speak.
Well, I didn't get a second, so.
Well, we're not done.
No, I tried to make a motion right away so we get moving.
Any other comments or any other discussion? Commissioner Peter or Baron?
Well, it's, I think the gist of this is outreach for the radio is consistency from what the board has done. And, we have 5 different commissioners and we will, because we're here, we generally have 5 different viewpoints.
Right.
Well, I'm thankful for Clerk Prisraki for just mentioning this, that she had done it in the past. I sorry, Nancy, I didn't realize that you had. I believe that it's pretty fair, neutral individual to do that. So I would be glad if Nancy, if she's volunteered to do this, I would be glad to support Nancy as being outreach for us at the radio. And as she is, well, she just mentioned it a little bit ago to myself and Commissioner Moyle that she has done this in the past and she has brought on administrators. So, and we all would have our opportunities as board members also, but I would say that it's the consistency of what took place at the meeting tonight. Nancy is the recording secretary. I think you can't get a lot closer than what took place than the one who recorded it. So I'd make a motion that Nancy Prisraki would be the first to go on the radio to present what took place at the board meeting for consistency.
So we have two separate motions on the floor right now.
No, yeah, where there's no,
Did you withdraw?
no, I didn't
No,
withdraw.
I didn't think I was.
I thought you.
But,
No,
but
he didn't.
no, but
But
what
we-
happens after there's no second, it's null and void. Nobody,
very
you
good.
don't move forward with it.
So is there a second to Commissioner Barron's motion?
I'll second it with discussion.
Okay, well, for sake of discussion, so now we have Mr. Barron moves and Commissioner Peterson supports having the county clerk, our parliamentarian, and our signator basically be the radio outreach person. Not throwing anything at me right now, so I mean, that's cool, right? It's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so any other comments, gentlemen? Any discussion?
I would like to discuss or just bring this up that she handles the basic outreach for us. But if we, like, as commissioners, if we have special projects we're working on, there's nothing stopping us from getting a hold of Mr. Warple. and
Absolutely nothing. Okay,
That's the only clarification I need.
additional discussion from the commission,
What's the penalty if I don't follow that?
not going on the radio?
Well, speaking
There's
what
no
I,
penalty.
well, then why are we doing the motion to restrict people from
We are not.
speaking?
There's nothing restrictive about this, sir. You can go and you can talk to Craig Warple, you can talk to Jack Hall.
But you're making her the official voice of me. And when I vote,
No, no,
well,
no,
that's,
you're not.
well, read the motion.
Where does
It
it
was
say?
moved by Barron and seconded by Commissioner Peterson to have Clerk Presraki attend the radio show. See, typically,
Yeah, but
In
he
the
also
past.
said to represent the boards, the meetings from the board.
Represent what took place here.
Yeah, and
She's
that's
the
where I
recording
have an issue with.
so let me tell you what's happened in the past, for the last 22 years, is I've gone on the radio with the administrator or sometimes the board chair, sometimes other commissioners on this talk show that Craig has, newsmakers, to go over the meetings, because in the past, other commissioners weren't interested in doing it. They didn't want to be on the radio. So, and then for the last, year and a half, Emily did it by herself. So Emily was on the radio, so.
No, and I understand that. And I get nervous going on the radio and I probably don't talk real good either, but I'm willing to go on there to show the people that have voted me on what I was thinking about, because when there's controversial issues, I don't
There's no
have,
restriction on that, Steve. He'll do that.
okay, but I don't think she's gonna voice the way I feel with things
No,
all the
I
time.
would never presume to do that. I never talked for any of the commissioners, just what took place at the board meeting. That's basically it.
You still have the same right and the same opportunity to approach the media that you always had. This is not an issue of restricting any commissioner. And I streams,
Well, I want to take Corey on sometimes. See, well.
that's what's stopping you.
Okay. Well, then why are we appointing someone to always go on there? I mean, there's only so much airtime. Maybe Craig don't want any of us now.
Maybe. Maybe. All right, are there any other discussion, gentlemen?
I'm not getting the gist of why we're doing just one person. I just can't see
Let
that.
me ask you this, do you have, and it's just, we're not restricting anybody, but do you have an issue with Clerk Presraki recording the minutes? Because the minutes, you could make the argument that she could be subjective in her recording of the minutes, and it might not be an accurate representation of
That's-
what you were doing.
No, I don't, because it's a statutory position with the state that we have somebody to do that, and it's that department that does it.
That wasn't my point.
Well, that's my point, is she's doing it because that's part of her job.
I understand that, and I have no problem myself, her speaking for the commission as far as what took place the previous night. If
And
somebody-
neither do I, but I don't think it should be a mandated vote for her to do it. Just have her do it. It's the voting that I don't like. You're saying she will be the one. Maybe sometimes she,
And
I
if it
want to-
doesn't work, I guess we could reverse it or have appoint somebody else if you thought.
yeah, but
that-
we're voting on something that you say we're not gonna follow.
I didn't
She's
say
gonna,
that.
well, she's gonna go speak on our behalf. And we can still go speak on our behalf of what happened at the meeting. It just.
And it's
just-
really not, I'm not speaking on your behalf. I'm just going over what decisions were made at the board meeting. I never state why somebody voted a certain way.
Well, and that's where we come in. Yes, I
Right.
understand.
And the other thing is it's always better to have a second person, whether it be a board member or the administrator. You know, it's always good for
Getting
Craig to
both
have at
sides.
least two people. Yes.
And the reasons that the commissioners go on there, if they have the nerve to, is to present why they voted whatever way they voted, so the public understands that the diverse not consensus decision, why there was opposites and stuff like that. And I think it works all good. I just think we should just leave it like it is. If he invites us, we go. But just for you to be the only person as
That
an
was not-
official, you know, I mean, shouldn't Ashley go sometimes? Shouldn't other department heads go?
Commissioner Barron, please.
That's what Nancy has said. She generally goes on with someone else. And she had just mentioned that basically, it's a consistency that we want to have. And no one would know that what took place at the meeting better than Nancy, because she's recorded it.
Or me.
She's recording.
Or me.
Well, we've had debates here, so that changes the perspective. I would consider her neutral in writing down what took place. So it's that consistency of what took place. And if there was a greater part of the issue and the opportunity for board member to go out and explain further, fine. But this is consistent from what took place at the board meeting tonight. Or any other night that we have meeting.
Commissioner Peterson, do you have anything?
I don't see any problem with having to go on and like you said, all you're doing is telling the events that happen, not who feels this way or that way. We can go on ourselves and do that. I just made sure that that was clear, that we can call up, I think we all have Craig Warple's phone number, and we can all call Craig up and say, hey, I'd like to come on and talk to you about what we're doing. And I don't see any problem with that.
Commissioner Melner?
I would suggest, the next one that Nancy goes to is to invite Commissioner View.
There you go. Exactly.
Tomorrow morning?
Up to you, Nance. I mean, we haven't voted for it, but it's up to, I don't care. All right, gentlemen, any additional discussion? And we, all those in favor of having Nancy communicate with the media, not just Craig Warple, because I have Jack Wall breathing down my throat, as a voice of the county to report what took place last night. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, well, that's your first nay. You normally do present. I'm happy. Okay.
Well, I know for sure this isn't right.
All right. Well,
In my mind, in my opinion.
thank you, sir. That would pass, and we're moving in the right direction. Okay, we have an RFP for municipal attorney.
Nope.
I missed one item, sorry. Appointment to the planning commission. I do apologize. Ashley? You have several applications, I believe.
It's not on, sorry. We had a planning commissioner step down in their position, and we have 5 applicants for the position that is on file. We're looking for the board to appoint someone tonight.
Are there any nominations to the opening on the planning commission?
I'll make a motion that Charles Lawson be appointed.
I'll
I'll
support that.
support that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Melner and support by Commissioner Barron on the appointment of Charles Lawson to the planning commission. Additional discussion?
I have 6 applicants. Just to let you know.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second on the floor. Do we have additional discussion on the floor?
Yeah, let me tell you something about Mr. Lawson. I talked to him. He sent me an email. Actually, I talked to everyone that would answer their phone on all the references and the individuals, because some of these are dated back from October of last year. I wanted to make sure every one of them was willing to serve yet. They all said they were. Every one of them has been highly recommended with good ethics, strong mind, and lots of varied abilities to help with the planning commission. But Mr. Lawson, in my research with all his work, being working with other cities in planning issues and stuff. And then he reminded me that there's going to be a review of the master plan. And he explained all the stuff he did. And he was my first choice also.
Very good, Commissioner. Thank you. Additional discussion. We have a nomination. We have a second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All those in favor of accepting or appointing Charles Lawson or Chuck Lawson to the Delta County Planning Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Now we have the RFP for a municipal attorney. Since I was the one to bring this up, I will be the one to take heat for this without trying to. I want to state for the record, especially to our prosecutor, that this has nothing to do with her level of qualifications, competence. I think we have, and I've said this from the get, we have an excellent prosecutorial staff and they have good skills. I have concerns about something as we are the representatives of the people and we need somebody specifically. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal eagle, and I could be wrong or I could be mistaken in some of this, but I do not believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of you, if our prosecutor is representing us, and I'm not against that, I want to make sure that we bring the best case scenario to the people of Escanaba. I've been on when we spent 150, 200 grand a year on lawyers and it wasn't fun. Somebody would want an opinion, it would cost us $2,500, $3,500. But the people that represent us as a county need to have, and if Lauren is still here, she wants to come up and discuss this, that's if the commission has no problem with that, they need to have malpractice insurance because that could be a problem for the county. I have more questions about this. And I was, accused of trying to get my buddy, Scott, he's not my buddy, he's an acquaintance of mine. And in legal terms, you get referrals based on watching people work. I don't care who we hire. As long as we hire somebody who works specifically for the board when we need it. I don't want anyone working for the board that's going to mess us up with MMRMA. I have my concerns about them. They are an insurance company. And I've been the one to ring the bell about concerns about frivolous lawsuits. And I'm the one that is pushing for wanting a lawyer with municipal experience who was first in the federal bar in the Sixth Circuit. And so I did some checking. Graham is probably the winningest lawyer I've ever seen in the federal bar, but that doesn't restrict us to Scott Graham. I'm just asking, can we cast a net out there? And can we get some lawyers to shoot in? We don't have to hire anybody, but in order for us to really look into this properly, we need an RFP. And I'll open the floor up, please.
If I may,
Please.
I'm not against putting out the RFP to see what's out there, but I would really like to, and I'll admit I've had time. I've been busy. I haven't had a chance. Excuse me. I'd really like a chance to get in and talk with our prosecuting attorney and her assistant prosecuting attorney to clarify some of those things.
Well, one thing, like when you go in, maybe we could work with them on getting them malpractice insurance for, and I don't know how this works. I'm not saying they're going to need it, but I know that lawyers have it for a reason.
Well, and that's some of the things I'd like to go in and talk to her about.
Very good. Commissioner View?
You sure you want me to tell you what I found out? I feel odd here.
Well, it's all right. All right.
Let me tell you something. What have we needed? You're potentially thinking we're needing somebody. So what I did, I'm on 4 or 5 boards. So I said, what better way to find out how they have that protection? And these are boards that are under the umbrella of us. And I'm pleased to tell you, they've had suits, they have been sued, they've had issues, and they have attorneys out of Lansing that help them out, from the health board, to the airport board, the Michigan Works, another board that hires people like that. No money, no nothing till the issues come up. You don't need to retain one specifically for something that hasn't happened. These guys are willing to step in at any given moment. I even called them up and talked to them. Wasn't my spot. I said, I'm not hiring you. I said, I just want to find out a little bit how you run your operations. Most of them work out of their homes besides, but they're available. I have no issue in trying to get somebody to say, you run into an issue, when it comes up, send it to us. We'll help you out, but not to the point from the last meeting, Commissioner Melner said, cost us 100 and some thousand. You mentioned it tonight. Let's just check what these other boards do. And I got like a Greg Grant. I have Coley, Stoker, and Tozinski PC from Lansing. I have their phone numbers. I have their information. I think I got to quit being too thorough because it seems to go by the wayside, but that's my opinion.
I think that, and I agree with you. In order, I think the first step in checking with some of these people, and I'm not in favor of giving someone a retainer at all.
They don't.
Well, no, but I mean, in order for us to really start talking, we need an RFP first, and then we can start reaching out to some of these guys and, okay, how much would this cost or whatever? So this is just the first step. This is not, Mr. Milner.
You mentioned having our prosecutor come up and talk a little bit about it. I would agree with that. If she wanted to come up and talk a little more about it.
I don't agree with it. Well, I mean, listen.
So we need a vote on this because I would like to hear from our prosecutor.
Well, the thing is, she sold me the first time she was up there. She sold me everything that she can do for the county. We're paying her $6,000. I have no issue utilizing our own department at the beginning level. She don't have to come up and repeat it for me.
I didn't want her to repeat it. I had additional questions, as I think other commissioners may have.
All right. I mean, for that reason, fine, but to give the presentation over,
No, she doesn't need to.
No.
she, I'm in her court right
Prosecutor
now.
Wickman, thank you. I know this is impromptu. I hope you're cool with it.
Yep, absolutely.
I have, for the public record, I do respect you as a prosecutor and a lawyer. And so this has never been an issue of not respecting Lauren Wickman or her staff. I am concerned, and like I say, I admit publicly, I'm not a legal person. I'm not a legal mind. I mean, you obviously are. And so any of these questions are not, in my opinion, a pejorative against you or your staff. I'm grateful to have you. What can we do about the malpractice stuff, malpractice insurance?
So I'm gonna get the year wrong. I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, this question came up. I actually tried to get malpractice insurance and there was not malpractice insurance available to me, as I only practice within my role within the government. I would be covered under MMRMA if I did something improper as well. So the insurance that goes along with the county, if I'm representing the county, it falls in line with that.
The previous opinion that was offered by your previous boss, I loved his opinion. I thought it was rocks, not that it matters what I like, but I thought it was rock solid. So again, this is not anything that I'm aiming at you, and I know that there's got to be a level of irritation with you, or I'm sincerely offering you respect. In terms of conflict of interest, if you could see one coming, what would it be? Because when I talk to lawyers and I ask, they ask, well, who represents the county? I said, well, right now a prosecutor does. And that's the first thing I hear out of their mouths. They're not from the UP, but I mean, is that a concern of you, or is that a possible limitation for you doing your job?
It's always a concern. I can't hypothetically say this is what I would do in this situation, but that's
Understood.
what the statutes that I cited before provide for. In an instance where there is a conflict and I'm in a position I can't represent the county, that's when you can go and hire an attorney specifically to represent on that issue or on that conflict when I'm out of it. That came up during election season regarding an opinion. I could not give that opinion. So the board at that point requested a opinion from Mr. Grant separately and distinctly from myself. So that's when that exercise, which is put into statute, allows for this board to do. It's not hamstrung. If there's a conflict, you're stuck with me. You're not stuck with me.
It's being stuck.
No, I understand. It's my word. There's an opportunity when the board feels that I'm unable to adequately represent the county. And the biggest way that I can see from that is when there is a conflict. That is the first and only instance I can think of that we have run into in our 5 or 6 years as our office being civil counsel, that there has been that type of conflict.
So hypothetically, there could be a need, throw out an RFP if there was a conflict. But you don't see one on the horizon.
I don't see one on the horizon. I think looking at the purchasing policy, depending on what the issue is, would depend on whether there's an RFP. If we are under that 10,000 threshold, I don't believe you have to go through that process and you can go speak with Mr. Grant, which was done in the past. There was not a RFP thrown out in this past calendar year for his services, and I believe he was utilized on 2 or 3 occasions.
Gentlemen, commissioners, do you have, please?
I guess my thoughts on this are, as long as we're not paying a retainer to anybody and we're just utilizing them as we need them, we can take most of our issues with you in your office and just have an attorney in our back pocket that if something does arise, we know who they are, we know how to go talk to them, and we can bring them on
Why
board.
don't you use the words on the shelf or something, not in the back?
Okay.
I would just re-raise some of the issues I brought up previously about what are you using that attorney for? If it's an opinion that I can't give, then sure. But if you're talking about some sort of lawsuit, then there is a mechanism through the insurance company to allow for that and at least eliminate one option so that the county is covered through that insurance policy.
Right, and that's what I'm looking for. If we just want an opinion, you don't have the information. Some
She
case,
sees a conflict or something.
yes, conflict or whatever. That would just, like I said, that would make it, you or MMRA. We have somebody on the shelf that we
In the
know who he
pocket.
is and how he works, and we can go to him if we have to.
I think that's already somewhat done with, I know Mr. Grant was utilized previously. He's actually the individual who represented me in my lawsuits through MMRMA. So he covers those items as well. I was very impressed with him. I have no issue with.
And he's a municipal
Correct.
attorney.
Yeah, he
Correct.
works for the MMRMA.
Well, not only that, but he also represent county boards here. I mean, he's already known, he's doing stuff. And so,
And I don't want to speak for Mr. Grant that he is available for the job by any means, but I'm just saying I think it's an option that has been utilized in the past.
It
And
has.
he's already essentially set up in that position from that previous contact.
Commissioner Milner, you look like you were ready to.
No.
All right.
I'm thankful for the conversation. The issue was about as we're looking for this RFP for municipal attorney, some of the things that have been brought up, and I think Commissioner Peterson has mentioned that, and in going with an RFP, you see what is presented, and it may be a case where the attorneys are strictly as needed type basis.
I would agree.
And I don't think that's a bad thing to have.
Any other questions for our prosecutor, please? So I don't want to. Thank you again for your time and your candor.
Yeah.
All right, so in regards to the MMRMA, their insurance company, we've received good services from them, but I've been on the board long enough to see 2 lawsuits settled out of court. I'm not going to say whether that was right or wrong, not the legal mind, but I will say this, the MMRMA, they're an insurance company that gives us services, but they have their own interests at mind sometimes too. Hence the settling out of court. My impetus for this was and whether it's our prosecutor or it's somebody that we bring in, if she feels that it would be more advantageous, The MMRMA has an interest in itself and its own pocketbook too, okay? I'm not questioning their public integrity, but that's why they exist. I'm looking for someone that has nothing but an interest in serving the people of Delta County through this board. And if that makes me naive, then so be it.
Well, we're not attorneys, and I'll tell you one thing, their vested interest is do the best for the county, whether it's saving money or not, because they're the ones that are gonna lose in the end because we're insured by them. I mean, it just makes common sense.
My point is that
You don't think they're gonna fight as hard?
I don't, sometimes in the last two things, I didn't think they fought at all. Because it was an out of court settlement, and I'm not gonna get into amounts and philosophy, because that could trip up the county. But if you're looking at adjudicating a case for this amount, as opposed to settling out of court for this amount.
That's
you
what
don't
they
think
do.
That plays into it, yeah, I mean.
I've been sued many times. I've lost every one of them on exactly what you said, because you know what the insurance company told me? And they hired
Cheaper to do out of court.
they said, we're better off to give everyone $25,000 and settle than to go to court, even though we have all this evidence and we're probably could win, but a jury still may turn it around and we'll lose $1 million. I mean, it's,
But
That-
if the lawyer does lose and or the county loses,
MMR
we could
pays.
be, we could be liable for
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's,
Up to
Hundreds.
75,000.
if MMRMA is protecting us. If not, we
could be
could
millions.
lose 100,000,
oh,
who knows,
that would
whatever
be-
they
that would
do
be
for.
cheap in terms of litigation. I agree.
Yeah,
Okay, so what I'm asking you guys to consider, this commission to consider is we can throw an RFP out there. That doesn't mean we have to do anything. And it certainly is not throwing it out there to kick sand in the face of one of our department heads and her team. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have every avenue looked at.
Well, do you know something I don't know?
Well, I'm just fishing at, so we have how many open meeting act complaints?
Well, no, I know we have complaints, but is there something coming down the pipeline that I should be aware of that? we
Not
may
that I
need-
know, otherwise you'd know it.
Okay, I mean, because
I'm sincere about that. I'm looking you right in the eye. You know, I mean, I would ask that you would please be quiet in the audience. I know people at home can't hear what's going on because the mics are coming forward, but you are out of order when you are commenting in the audience. If you continue doing so, I will ask a sheriff's deputy to ask you to be quiet. I cannot be any more respectful or polite than that. You are out of order. Please do not comment. You will have an opportunity during general public comment. This is the commission's time to talk. Thank you. I apologize.
I like the proactive approach, but I don't support a proactive approach when we already have a process in place and competent people that have spoken tonight
I agree.
that can do everything we're asking them to do at this level. And I do not foresee any lawsuits, as long as we mind our P's and Q's.
Can I
guess.
ask you a question? I mean,
Yes.
And this is not at all taking anything away
No,
from the
that's what
process.
I like this.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually do too. You have house insurance for a reason, okay? And it covers a variety of possible ailments. I mean, and so Lauren said tonight, or Prosecutor Wickman said tonight, she can't handle all things, or she might not be able to handle all things. That is not a condemnation of her legal ability.
No.
It is simply taking a look at the potential aspects of opening up our county to counsel beyond our insurance company and beyond our prosecutor in case we need a very specific type of action. And in order for us to get that, I'm not expecting the sky to fall. I'm not checking my toothpaste for a bomb. I don't think we're going to be sued next week. But I do think after so many things are thrown at this county, when I brought this up, I was accused of trying to get my good buddy money. He's not my friend. So I just want to be prepared on behalf of the people. That's not committing us to one dime, not one dime.
And I agree with you. Prepared for the people and hiring lawyers, everything. Can we kind of table this until we have an administrator?
I
To
don't
get their
disagree with that.
input?
If you want to, the rest of the board, I think that makes sense. You want to table this until we have a
Do not take it off the agenda. Leave it there until we get
full-time administrator.
our new leader. I think they can guide us much more than my opinion. And because I'm not I'm not gonna say you probably know more than me.
No,
but
I doubt it. Gentlemen, any questions?
I moved to table it.
Any other
Support.
support? I have a motion by Commissioner View and support by Commissioner Melner to table this additional discussion. Now, do you have any other questions, Commissioner?
I don't have a question, but an observation. The RFP was not, was going to give us some possibilities out there, and there's always greater wisdom in multiple counseling.
And I have him. He told us to come with our recommendations. I brought them. I got 3 of them.
Well, and that's fine, but and that's good that you have those, but an RFP gives us an opportunity to see more of what's out there.
We're not committing to anything.
We're not committing, we're just wanting to find out
No,
what the
and
possibilities are.
Commissioner Peterson, do you have anything?
As I said, I don't see a harm in putting out the RFP, but if Commissioner, you feel better to table it for a little bit, I see no urgency in it.
What length of time until we have a full?
well, till we we hire an administrator, and no matter who it is, and this is a little bit less off of Ashley's plate too. She has to be overwhelmed on some of the stuff that's happening right now, and I'm just lightening her load a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Because you'd have to do a lot of work. There's a lot of work to this. Tracy, we have other things that is really important right now. Agreed or not?
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever you feel necessary.
not
that's
me.
fine.
I want to ask you, would this cause more workload for you to start doing this?
I believe there's already an RFP attached, so. No, I mean, it's already, the work.
Who do
has
you
already-
send it to?
You send it out.
We send it out to all of the attorneys. We post it.
All the who?
We have an attorney list. We could send it out to past attorneys that have represented us. We also have it available on our website for them because they approach us. It's just,
Yeah, we don't.
we don't.
We're casting a net essentially, seeing who comes in and whether we like them. That's it.
Well, I'd still like to table it. I want my motion to be acted on.
So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second on the floor. Is there additional discussion? I would like a roll call on this. Please read the motion.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner View and seconded by Commissioner Melner to table the RFP for professional municipal, I'm sorry, not the wrong one, municipal attorney until the new administrator is in place.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay. Melner,
Yes.
View,
Yes.
Barron,
No.
Melner. I'm missing somebody.
I can't
Peterson.
vote twice.
Yeah, you can.
Peterson
I'll say yes.
and Moyle.
No. All right, very good. This matter is tabled officially until we get a new administrator in. 7 is the RFQ Professional Airport Consulting Services.
We have our department head, Andrea, online. She would like to on Zoom.
Please go ahead.
Good evening. So yes, the airport has a contracted engineering consulting firm that helps us work with our annual grant program. It's a group of civil engineers. Currently, the engineering firm we use is a specialized firm called Prine and Newhoff. I'm sure most of you have heard that name before. We are only allowed per FAA regulations to have contracts that last 5 years. So we're closing in on that 5-year mark. Our contract will be up in August. So right now, I'm requesting the board allow us to put out a request for qualifications. The other main airport consulting firm is Mead and Hunt, which is another big name that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But we have quite a list of projects, as you'll see on that RFQ, due to the fact that we not only have our regular annual $1 million grant, but we have an additional one through the BIL funding. So I've got a lot of stuff in the works with this current company. They've been a wonderful group to work with. So, unless we got some really phenomenal bids in, they would be my recommendation. But first we need to put the contract out, or a request for qualifications out. The request gets placed with MDOT, and that's MDOT Aero, and that's where the majority of these firms are already paying attention to those boards that MDOT maintains. And they'll help me get it out to any other areas that would be a good place for me to post it.
Commissioners, we would need an authorization to have airport admin send out the RFQ for consulting services. Moved by Commissioner View, supported by Commissioner Melner. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 8 is the Airport Advisory Board resolution supporting Andrea Numalainen.
I'd like to move to place this on file.
Okay, the Airport Advisory Board had met and they gave a unanimous
I'll support.
thank you. So we have motion by Commissioner Barron, we have support by Commissioner View. Additional discussion, it is the unanimous resolution of support for Andrea. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Assistant Building and Zoning Administrator job description.
The Personnel Committee recommends that the Assistant Building and Zoning Administrator job description to be changed due to two duties that are listed appointed by the Planning Commission. Attached, you had seen the new job description with the elimination of the recording secretary for the Planning Commission and Board of Appeals. Also attached is the bylaw showing an administrative secretary may be appointed with approval and reimbursed by the Delta County Board of Commissioners. So we have eliminated we are requesting to eliminate those two duties, the two secretaries.
Commissioners, I would need a motion.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner View, supported by Commissioner Barron. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Very good. Number 10 is the structure of the Parks Advisory Board.
The Personnel Committee again met and recommends that the board create a Parks Advisory Board that consists of 2 commissioners and 1 resident from each district.
Commissioners,
Sounds pretty good to me.
okay.
Well,
It's good representation. I'll make a move that,
Are you moving?
well, so we can discuss it. So
All right, so moved by Commissioner View, supported by Commissioner Melner. Now discussion.
I would like to speak to that. I think at this point in time, we've asked the Soil and Conservation District to manage the parks up until the first of the year.
Mhm.
I think that, in my opinion, we should let them do that and then set up this board to start after the county takes over at the first of the year.
Commissioner Barron?
I'm supportive of that. We still have this advisory group that was for the Fuller Park that I don't believe we made a motion to cancel that. But this is something that's not needed right now with the circumstance that we have. So I'm not supportive of this, and I'd like to see that withdrawn if you would possibly do that, because there's not a need for this right now.
there is a need to the extent that what we discussed at the Personnel Committee on establishing this, it's going to take some time to get it up and running. And Ashley, you want to explain what we were discussing on it? It's just the formation of this starting now, but how it, the line item and all that other stuff that's in the works that hasn't been approved yet, on how important it is to get moving forward with this so we're in place by the end.
We were just, because there's that 30-day notice on an actual committee board, so we have that. And then are you speaking of the special revenue fund? Like creating the parks, Delta County Parks under a special revenue fund?
Yeah, a separate line item, enterprise fund. If you can kind of explain what that entails so that we can get moving on it. And we never denied stopping the John, correct me if I'm wrong, the county from following through till the end of the year or whatever the fiscal
I
year.
haven't seen anything on it. And
I mean,
as
we're
far as
willing to
I
go
know-
with that.
As far
Yeah.
as I know, the conservation district is still they'll be done May 15th at noon.
We have a contract that we're working out with them. to
Right.
Expand it from May 15th at noon through the first of the year. So, and it is our,
The first of the year or to the fiscal year?
The end of December.
the end of December, because there are items that need to be taken care of in November in terms of closing the parks down. So if anybody else, before I throw my 2 cents in, I don't want to step on anybody.
Step on me.
Okay, we've asked the Conservation District and they've offered us quite an olive branch. They are running the parks. We're going to have a contract through to them by May 1/5. And that'll take us through the first of the year. Okay, they are running the parks. We're contracting them to run the parks. It would be appropriate to set this up. We can put it in place or whatever, but
Right.
I wouldn't, if they don't like what's going on and they walk away from this, we're gonna have an issue. And they didn't have to give us that olive branch of helping us train the parks manager and helping us prepare for this season. Let them do their thing. They've done their thing. They've done it very well. I say it's a shame we're losing them, but I can't change that. So I'm not in favor of this. I won't vote for it.
Well, Mr. Chair, this has nothing to do with what you're talking about. This is the first step in getting the independence from the park when the Soil and Conservation District leaves. This is
Go ahead.
just a basic structure. Ashley, can you kind of explain what we talked about or?
Well, there were two separate subjects. The one was, this is for the Parks Advisory Board. The special revenue fund recommendation is going to the finance to have it. So the finance board, that's what was passed. So the finance would recommend to the board that it would be a special revenue fund. So there's two separate motions that were in that agenda item for us at the Personnel Committee.
Commissioner Peterson. I guess I wouldn't have a problem working on this at this time, but not putting it in place until the
January
part
1, 2024.
Right, correct.
Well, we need to vote on that yet. You know what I'm saying? What you're saying is that new contract with the Soil and Conservation District has not been submitted to the commission yet. We don't know if it's going to pass or whatever. This is just like Commissioner Peterson said, it's our first step in organizing how them county parks are going to be run when we take over, whether it's May 1st or January
Can I
1st.
take
That's
a
all.
Page out of your book, sir.
Here.
I'd
Can I
like
have
to
more?
table this item. I don't mind discussing this. I don't mind getting the frameworks in order, but I in no way will support anything that's gonna constrict or irritate the Conservation District in their attempts to help us get through this season and to hire a parks manager.
If I may, I don't know if we've really truly determined our direction. We're getting through this year. We've had enough other things to work on here of taking over the parks, what that's going to entail, what that's going to look like. If we're even going to need a parks advisory board. We haven't really decided that. We've been working on other issues to just keep things up and running for this year. So we haven't looked at the possibility of a private sector. We haven't reached out or any of that. We're just getting through this first steps now. And I believe further in the year would be more of an appropriate time to discuss what actual direction we want to go.
Well, what direction do we want to go?
That's what we haven't determined.
Let's
yet.
start now.
Well, you're already determining that we're going to have a parks advisory board.
Well,
When
that's,
we are, we may not go in that direction. We may be going with a an RFP for potentially running the parks. We haven't.
A private party? you mean?
We have to look into that
We have
with
to look
union
into that.
issues, obviously.
Yeah, there's issues to be looked at there before we jump in and have an advisory. So.
So what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from this is you can continue with your motion. I'm not going to speak for any other commissioner, but hearing from three of the commissioners, it doesn't sound like it's going to go. Do you still want to vote?
Sure.
All right, well then.
I mean, I do.
The motion has been made by Commissioner View and seconded by Commissioner Melnar to create a structure of a Parks Advisory Board. We're going to go on a roll call on this, please. It would be adopting Commissioner View's and Melnar's version of a Parks Advisory Board.
Okay.
For Clerk Prisraki.
Melner,
Yes.
View,
Yes.
Barron,
No.
Peterson,
No.
and Moyle.
No. All right, ratification of a letter of support to the city of Escanaba, collaboration with MDOT for the utility project. Ashley?
Yes, I was contacted by City Manager Jim McNeil, who requested the board to support a congressional direct spending application to Senator Peters for the collaboration of MDOT. Or with MDOT, they are doing construction on US 2 within the limits. And the city would like to collaborate with their utility project. He's hoping to make it a joint project and complete the utility work at the same time. Their engineers are estimating the utility work to cost around 7 million, and it would be several multiples higher if done at a different time.
You have the
So-
letter?
It is attached.
Okay, wonderful. I think we should be good neighbors. I would entertain a motion.
I move.
Support.
Okay, I have motion by Commissioner View, support by Commissioner Barron. Additional discussion, commissioners.
I talked to the city manager, and it has nothing to do with our county being on hook for any finances. It's like moral support. The more people that can support a project at the federal level, it just looks a little better, and that's what we're doing. So just warn the people that it isn't a money thing.
Good neighbors. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, we have discussion of the priorities of each county commissioner. Let's just go down the line, please. Commissioner Peterson, have you, if you don't have to discuss on this, but if you do, wonderful.
Well, so much to do and so little time to do it in. I guess my top priorities are economic growth of Delta County. I'm really looking into housing, how we can help the housing issue, because there is a housing issue in this county. And to get the parks straightened out and running in a proper I'm also very interested in moving the fair forward and helping in any way I can with getting the fair to continue to run and grow as it has.
Commissioner View, I want to thank you for this. If this was your idea, I like it. It's a good idea.
It is my idea, and I feel bad that Commissioner Peterson had to speak first because,
That's fine. It's not-
well, no, that isn't why I asked it to be put on there. I asked it to be something to be aware of, that we can come back at a future meeting.
You
And
can't take a compliment very well, can you?
yes, I can. Thank you. Wow, what, I didn't make my 5 priorities yet. I have to
Listen,
talk to the city. I'm not gonna make any. I'm saying.
Play poker with him.
It's an idea of our commission eventually coming up with the 5 priorities that we need to work on in the future. And I'd like to have something brought to the meeting for each one to throw into the pot. But my priorities are going to start with basically the finances and then the needs of the people. And I have to hone in on them. I wasn't prepared to give them tonight. I thought I would give a little comment before why I asked to have it put on there, because most boards that I'm on, you have your priorities and you start working, administrator. I want the best administrator we can get and so forth. So
Commissioner Milner.
Uh, I agree with Commissioner Peterson about getting housing. We have a huge opportunity right now with the Baruch coming in, and I think this county's gonna grow over like crazy. So housing is a big thing. I don't know where Gladstone is on their North Shore. I know they were working on that yet.
20 years.
Yeah, so I hope that takes effect pretty soon. And then we have along by the terrace and through there, I hope that takes off here pretty soon also. I also would like to see the county taking over the parks ASAP and to go forward with that. I guess that's kind of what
We can
everything
add.
right now.
We can add.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have presided over, served the board over 12 balanced budgets. My first goal is to, as long as I serve over a balanced budget. Number two would be to increase county revenue streams through tourism and manufacturing. That way we don't have to look at the possibility of any kind of tax increases. Number three would be really to maintain the high level of services that this county offers its citizens through the taxation that they have to pay. Number four goes back to my oath of office, and that very simply is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Michigan and protect it from enemies, foreign and domestic. Number five, go back through A through D, which is the last four I just said. And I'm a happy guy, sir.
Again, a tough act to follow here, but the reality is we should all be in agreement with those. This was something that the League of Women Voters asked at the forums they had down at the city hall back in the election cycle last year. I'm always hesitant to say what my top priorities are because any priority that you're quote working on, you call a top priority, ties in with a whole lot of other items, and that's the answer I use there. And I'm going to continue with that because you talk about finance, which is a key part of what we do here as a board, and that finance is effective in every other program that we have. Without the finances, we can't do a whole lot. But approaching those finances and maintaining those at a level that are sufficient for what we need here, the approaching it of we have issues, we have problems. I look at approaching those to try to solve those. We tend to have issues that are pervasive and continue, and there's a lack of an approach. I think sometimes, not willingly, I think it's difficult to how do we solve these problems? Why are we having these problems? That would require, and they're tied into why we need more finances, why we need more personnel in certain areas. And so to say specifically one priority, they're all tied together. And as I mentioned about the housing issue, and yes, definitely it is. We're short on housing in the area, and especially with coming forward with this big project that's going to be here. But we need to look why that's the case. We need to look how we can solve that and move forward. But we also have issues with we have a drug court, and we have a serious problem in our county. As an example, last year 30 households, 30 families, the parents lost their parental rights in the county. This is Delta County. 29 of those families were because of a drug issue, mainly marijuana, which is a little bit of a hot issue in our town. But see, so how do you solve that? How do you approach a problem like that? We need to understand it, what's taking place. If we don't do that, then we continue putting more funds towards issues, and it doesn't solve it. But they'll come back and say we need more funds. That's so often not the answer. The American way supposedly is dump enough money on something and it'll solve it. But unfortunately, the historical results are the more money we dump on something generally, what we have to deal with later is the stench. And it's not the solution. It takes the community to realize what the issue is, and the community needs to be aware. And a lot of these things do not need us doing a whole lot of regulation, financing. They need us to sit down as citizens, say, why are we in this situation? And what is it that we can do to solve those? Anyway, that's my view.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on. Some good things to hear. I had a meeting with Dave, our veteran services guy, and I went into the meeting not knowing what to expect, and I came out blown away. I've always said this, and I think you all agree, we have a phenomenal VSO. He helps 3,500 veterans in Delta County, and he has always kept Delta County in first, second, or third place. Not that people are keeping track, but I am, as far as in the state of Michigan, and getting the veterans what they need in terms of from the veterans. It brings in about $5 million a month to the local economy here. It's a crazy amount of money. And that's the good news. And then I was watching a small presentation that he gave me. We had a lot of time to talk. And you want to talk about somebody who does a lot of things, that guy on the Red Skelton show that would balance plates. I'm showing my age, but you know what I'm talking about. He's got 50 or 60 plates going on, and he attends to it. There were some things that, and he didn't ask me to sit down at that meeting to make me feel sorry for him. In government, you can't have sacred cows. However, I would hearken to what Mr. Hyken said, with no pun intended. We are paying a debt. Dave gets about $4,000 a year to help 3,500 veterans with emergency needs. Okay, that could be suicide prevention, and I'm not going to get specific, but he said he's helped 5 guys maybe not do that, and he's outreach, anything you can imagine. So if a vet can't pay their rent, if they can't get food, if they're going to have their electric shut off, any number of things, we get about $1.14 a year if you divide $4,000 by 3,500. And then and you'll all have a chance to talk in a moment. I just want to give you this presentation. I found out about Public Act 214 of 1899, the Indigent Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund, where the language says that the county board shall levy up to 0.1% of a mill. Well, let me put that in terms that people can understand. $1,000 house, you'd be about on the hook for $10. And I'm asking myself, you know, if I knew a veteran was going to have his heat shut off, or heat shut off, would I give them $10? I would, and I bet the vast majority of you would too. And so I just wanted to bring this forward. We have not been following Public Act 214 of 18. It doesn't say the county board might if it feels like. It says we shall. I would open this up to discussion, but I would like to see this sent to the finance committee so they can discuss this at a higher level. And this is just getting the emergency relief stuff. You can't service 3,500 people with $4,000 a year. 1 out of 4 veterans goes homeless. 20 vets in the United States kill themselves every day. I don't care what you think of Dave Moyle. Take me out of this. Focus on them. Everything we do is predicated because of what they've done. So I open it up, gentlemen. This is not even, I would like to discuss the potential of another VSO, Veteran Services Officer, to try to get him some help. But the first step is to talk about it and send it to finance. Mr. View, your wheels are rolling.
No,
which is a good thing.
they're square wheels. Just, they go slow, that's all. I'll move that we send it to the finance committee and get the figures on it and on what it entails to do with that public access. That's all.
I'll support that. Okay, moved by Commissioner View, supported by Commissioner Peterson to send Public Act 214 onto the Finance Committee. I would also ask the Finance Committee to look into inviting Dave there and talking to him about what his needs are in terms of reaching out to a greater population of veterans. One guy cannot service 3,500 people. Let's do a roll call on this, please. Oops, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Yes, I see Dave standing there. I'd like to have him come up and do a little talk.
He didn't want to. So I didn't fight him. But I think you just put his fat in the fire. Sorry, Dave, I didn't do that to you. Welcome and thank you for your services.
Thank you.
We're proud to have you.
Definitely wasn't planning on saying anything today, but I can probably leave it up for more questions than answers. We've been doing this, so I've been doing this now for about 7 years, and back in 2015, we were kind of in the same position that we're in right now. A little bit different circumstances. We had one service officer that was doing it for 10 hours a day. I'm sorry, 10 hours a week. Then we found out that we were pretty much in the minority as far as counties go, as far as our support for the veterans. That's when we decided to, or they had decided to at that time, to get a full-time person like myself in order to do this. Thankfully, that all went well, and here I've been for the last 7 years, and we now kind of find ourselves in the same place again, 7 years later, that we have a lot of other counties throughout the state that have surpassed where we are at as far as what we should be doing, at least in my opinion, in supporting the veterans. And that can mean of various amounts of things. Relief for their services, like he was just talking about, which we are required by law to do. I'm not a lawyer, but reading into it, shall means shall to me. With that being just one thing. Yes, getting additional personnel, absolutely, that's another thing. And the list, quite honestly, goes on. They are correct in the fact that having the 3,500 people can absolutely be challenging. And you don't know where you're going to lie or end up each and every day. Because you definitely do get into one of those positions where you are pulled in 20 different directions every day. Where you can be talking somebody down from suicide on the telephone, to helping somebody out with a claim with the VA, or trying to get somebody enrolled, or trying to get somebody's electricity shut off, or turned back on, prevent it from getting shut off. It's hard to tell where you're going to go. You try to plan it as much as you can every day when you come in, but as Commissioner Moyle found out, even coming to see me for an hour and a half, that there was a plenty of people coming in between 2:30 and 4, even after I'd already had a full day of talking to numerous people as it was. It doesn't stop, nor should it stop. And I'm very proud and very honored to be in the position that I'm in right now, to be able to continue to do this for veterans. I think we're just at a point where we need to, at a minimum, be in comparison to the rest of the counties that are putting in the effort and the funds and the personnel to support their veterans.
Thank you, sir, very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Dave.
I appreciate it. I know you didn't plan on this. Thank you.
Well, I just seen him standing around the whole meeting, so I figured he wanted to talk.
Do we hire
Yeah.
that? Is that
We
a position?
fund the position, yeah.
We fund the position.
You know,
Okay,
and I
okay.
remember me and you were on that board when we hired Dave. And we give him, he had an office over at the airport. And
Commissioner
my,
Melner, you were instrumental in getting him over here, so thank you.
yes, well, and I went over to pick up my lady friend because she flew down to Florida, and I thought, well, I'll go and talk to Dave for a little bit, see how he's doing. And his office looked like a Cracker Jack box compared to what he has now. And he says, I'm really getting fed up. Nobody talks. I said, did you go to the board meeting and say anything? No. I says, I'll get it handled for you. So I talked to Commissioner Nelson, and I said, you better get something done or we're going to lose a very, very valuable person. And that's, now he's got an office over here and it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for your leadership in that. So we have a motion, we have a second. Let's send this to the Finance Committee and try to get our vets the debt that we owe them paid. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Melner,
Yes.
View,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
and Moyle.
Proudly, yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Item last would be putting Andrea's request for an additional stipend at the airport to the finance committee. Mr. View, or if you want to take this, or are you okay? You just want the motion, make the motion.
Yeah, we don't have the information, so I would like that to go to the finance committee.
That's your motion.
Yes.
Okay, do we have support for that motion?
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner View. We have support by Commissioner Barron to send this item to the finance committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, this passes. All right, very good. General public comment. Please, general public comment. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Do we have anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Salvo. Well, it's fresh in my mind just talking about the veteran stuff. Amen to Dave, if he didn't leave already. Kudos, Dave. Been dealing with you for years with my dad. Told me how you didn't get enough support. Kelly Vankenhoven was checking into it. Emily DeSalvo was checking into it. There was talk of a millage. That never happened. I'm not sure, Mr. Moyle and the rest of you, why you haven't been out to that veteran center sooner to see the wonderful work that he's doing and give him this support. He should have got the support a long time ago. But amen that you're finally getting it and going to take the credit for it, even though it's been in the works and people have been trying to do this for the veterans for a long time.
Any additional comments on general public comment, please?
Christine Williams, Ford River Township. I have a couple of things. One, if you do eliminate Zoom and you go live stream on YouTube, just make sure that you ensure that the public can still participate. They have to be able to make public comment, so that's required. I would ask that the commissioners please use your microphones. I know a lot of you tend to lean into them at first and then you step back from them and you don't use them consistently, and it's very difficult during the recordings to hear you. So it's important. So please use your microphones. I want to remind the commissioners that the county has paid the conservation district to manage our parks. They have done a decent job of managing our parks. They have decided not to do that anymore, but let's be clear. There's no olive branch here. We pay them to do the job. They have received money to do this work. So it's an interesting way to look at it. But it's really not very clear. These are county taxpayer dollars, and we need to be clear how they're being spent. Lastly, on the county forest, Mr. Matson stood up here, I guess, at the request of Commissioner Moyle to provide some background on the county forest. I would like to clarify a few points. The original grant, which is nearly $1 million, that grant required a plan to be in place, and that original grant specifically states that the conservation district would be the one who put that plan together. So there's a little contrary to what Mr. Matson said tonight. So I think that needs to be investigated a little bit. But that plan was to require recreational groups as well as wildlife groups come together to develop that plan. The only groups that have ever been talked with or talked to are wildlife groups. That property is a hunt camp, and a very large portion of it is private hunting by Mr. Matson and his friends and family on the southwest corner. It is clear. We need to take a look at that. And for you commissioners who want to sit here, the three of you, and not even ask questions. Yes, I have 5 seconds left. Look quick. Are doing a disservice by not asking questions.
Thank you. Next up, please, general public comment. Flurry, welcome.
Yeah, Ed Flurry from Cornell Township. I know you're getting tired of seeing me. I'm getting tired of being here. And I imagine the board is getting real tired of seeing me. That being said, I just want to follow up on what that young lady said here. Just a little summation on that property in Cornell. That property was purchased 1,400 acres under Roy Matson. Immediately he put up the gates. It's gated, it's locked. It's been that way for 10 years. It's in violation of the grant. If you want to look at that grant, and you can see that it's definitely in a violation. It's not open to the public. And then he purchased the 240s on the south part of it that blocks anybody from getting into it but him. That being said, enough of that. The citizens of Delta County, I'll get my eyes out here. The citizens of Delta County have voiced their concerns in the past meetings. But it's obvious that it's fallen on deaf ears. Certain members of the board have their own agenda, and that's all that matters to them. It is citizens of Delta County. This is to you folks. We may have lost a battle here, but in the words of John Paul Jones, we'll win the war. We just begun to fight. Hang in there with me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. General public comment, please. Anybody wishing to address the board on general public comment?
Kelly Vangenhoven, City of Escanaba. I'd just like it put on public record that I have applied for the position for recording secretary for Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. So I don't know what the process is, if you have to put a 30-day out for that or not, or if you have it, because I had submitted it to Emily before she was fired. So I would just like to put out there that I have applied for those positions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Corbier, Escanaba. I have been waiting patiently to see something on the agenda and thought it would come up under department heads. The missing item that I noticed was the security for the courthouse. Oh, that was brought up to be put on the agenda for this time. And different commissioners have repeatedly said, law enforcement is our top priority, but yet I didn't hear that mentioned in one of you when your top priorities were. I don't think we should be going through phases like was suggested, because if we go through phases, the cost of products and everything is going to go up with each time we wait. He has come with his hat in his hand, the sheriff, and has asked for financing to do this project. $230,000 to complete the entire project. With shipping and the way things are hard to get, go for it right now. Emily got a grant for $800,000 in December. Everybody said what a wonderful job she did. That was not earmarked. I have not heard that that has been spent on anything. There's so much that going on in this courthouse that if we can't get this done immediately, I think we should hire this place that has the dogs that can sniff out this until at least they get the metal detectors in place. I mean, we've got two people sitting here right here that every day they're in that courthouse and who knows what's going on. The very first office they would go into would be Nancy's or down to the probation department. You get somebody that's really upset and they're going in there with a gun and they're going to shoot somebody and they get up to the door and they're so angry, they see a sign and says, oh, no guns allowed. I guess I'd better go put it back in the car. No, we need that now. And we need to get law enforcement the backing that they have requested. And I say, back our blue, stand up and do it.
Thank you. General public comment, please. Anybody with an interest in talking to the board for 3 minutes? General public comment, please.
I agree, the board should ask questions. First thing you should do when you go home tonight, get on the QPAD site and watch who owns around the county forest. It'll pop right up. You can go to each one. I own a half a mile along the southern end. You start looking at landowners, there's only one landowner who owns less frontage. I'll call it frontage, I guess, right? For a better term, than I do. The rest all own a lot more. And there's still a good mile and a half along that forest that people could still buy. That is still belongs to Lime and or others that have it up for sale. And also the access, if you go straight in, you take the left fork, that goes up an actual mile and a half on both sides, access to that forest. Then it makes a right, heads to the west for another half a mile. And then if you take the road that Commissioner Melner was talking about, that when that goes down, that's why that 80 was dropped down there. So Mr. Mattson and his friends, I actually hunt in Marquette County, by the way, but that's okay. And that's a long ways from Truex Road. But basically, Mr. Mattson and his friends don't control that forest. But one thing I heard here tonight, I think you guys really need to make a decision. John, we will have an agreement to you by the 15th. It's going to be very simple. And it addresses one other thing I heard tonight. Yes, we got the 75,000 and the 25,000. We're not going to be asking for more money at the end of the fiscal year. That will carry us till the end. The one thing, though, I will be working with the finance committee and Ashley is one of the COVID money was for redoing at Fuller Park what we did at Pioneer. And that's redoing the floors so you don't have to scrape the walls and the floors every single spring with just marine paint. It's actually putting the epoxy down and getting that down. That was one of the 5 things I think that was in there. So we're going to ask to have that moved ahead so that can be done this spring, and Mr. Wary will do that. The other thing is, I think you guys really need to decide, because I sat with Commissioner View and Commissioner Melner in the personnel committee, and it looked like everybody, including them, myself, and your administrator, were heading with the county having employees and taking over that park. If that's not the case, then there'll be no job description for a manager coming from the county. And so I would really think, I would hope by the end of April or at the next meeting, you make that decision. Is it going to go to the private sector for RFPs? If it is, get it out there. If it's not, and the county is going to do it. And I probably would recommend that happening, but that's totally up to you guys. But until that gets done, I think everything we're working on is spending time on is a big waste of time. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. General public comment, please. You have 3 minutes to talk to the board. General public comment. Going once before we turn it over to Zoom. Okay, very good, sir.
You should know, I'm Reed Hyken. Mr. Chairman, first of all, congratulations to the board. You showed great unity in supporting our veterans. Thank you. I think it's the right way to go. It's something we need to do. But I also noted that it took about 2 minutes of public comment before somebody decided to politicize doing the right thing. And frankly, I think that's the biggest problem with this community, is that people want to oppose anything based on their political views rather than what's good for the county. Thank you, board, for doing the right thing. Now, as for hiring the administrator question, we saw the discussion as to being whether they should be municipal background or commercial background or public background. Frankly, I believe you should be looking for people with public background, not municipal. Problem is it's inbreeding. You continue to hire people that work in the municipal sector and have a municipal viewpoint. When you bring people in from the public sector, they're going to bring in new ideas, different ideas, and very likely better ideas. By selecting from the same gene pool, you just continue to dilute the gene pool. So my recommendation, I would like to see us look at the public sector before the private sector. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. General public comment. General public comment, please. One last time, please, before we turn it over to Zoom. General public comment. Very well, Brandon, do you have anything on Zoom? Anyone on Zoom you wish to speak? Going once? Going twice? Thank you on Zoom. General public comment for the audience and for Zoom is over. All right, very good. We have, bear with me when I get, commissioners' comments. Mr. Peterson.
Yes, in talking with Commissioner Moyle about the situation with Billerud coming in, and the housing problem we have, with my background in both construction and real estate, he asked me to look into it and see what I could come up with to help the situation. And so I put together a small group of people that are involved in exactly that, housing and real estate, to bounce ideas off of each other to see where the county could help, what they need to promote housing. And so we had that meeting on Monday night, last night or yesterday. And we had 5 people that are in that area of profession and started bouncing ideas off. We made some really good headway. The people that showed up were pretty excited about what we had talked about. And this was just kind of a meeting to see if there was interest, and it turned out very well. I think we're going to have more meetings. On Thursday, I'm headed to Marquette for a meeting with a seminar with MISTA to see about possible financing help from MISTA. I believe that one of the, even without Billerud coming in, one of the biggest challenges this county has right now is finance, or is housing. We just have a very big shortage. So we have to address this issue, Billerud or not. With Billerud probably coming here, from what it sounds like, that's going to even be a bigger deal. Last time I was at a meeting where Billerud was at, they said that when they get this project up and running, there will not be a motel room, a VRBO, a cabin, a camping spot available anywhere within 20 miles of Escanaba. Even if we got every contractor in this area going tomorrow, putting up housing, whether it be condos, apartments, motels, we couldn't fill that. All we can hope to do is take some of the pressure off. So I plan on moving ahead, and I invited Commissioner Barron to the meeting. Him and I sat in, and I plan on moving ahead and trying to see what the county and the city, because we had a representative from the city of Escanaba there, what we can do to facilitate our builders to get out there and start either remodeling and upgrading buildings into apartments, putting up new apartments, putting up condos, individual housing, whatever. And I hope that in the real near future, we can make some headway on this and get some builders going and get some projects started.
Commissioner View.
Yeah, a couple of issues on the forest, county forest. Did we convene a meeting? Oh, I gotta talk into the mic. Thought I was talking to myself. I would like all the commissioners to go out there and look at what's happening, or either by tools or maybe a short meeting to go out there and go through that forest, because of all the controversy on issues on this is there, that's there, this trail ain't there, this is blocked. And I think if we seen it firsthand, it'll give us a better picture of what's being talked about at the board. Secondly, security at the courthouse. I do work at the courthouse. I think we made the right decision to move forward with it, not knowing the finances or what's available. I did recommend let's go in stages for most secure part first or whatever. He's probably going to come up with something. He's working on it. It just hasn't came back to the board. I'm excited for it to come back too. So we'll see. Gotta quit saying State and local governments fail to incorporate or activate features that enable users with disabilities to access public entities, programs, activities, or information online. The Department of Justice sent out a flyer and the notice of a proposed rules making to amend its Title II ADA regulations to provide technical assistance to public entities to comply with their existing obligations to make their website accessible to individuals with disabilities. Right now, to make our website follow ADA standards be cost prohibitive from what I was told. So Ashley did set up, and I just want to remind people, you can get on that email list and have everything a commissioner gets, which is a good first step. This research that I did probably ain't gonna cost the county any money. McMahon, John McMahon, I'm working with him, and I don't know if I should be doing this or not, but I know Ashley's so busy, so I stepped in as this is a project of mine. Because I do believe it's very important for them people. And he's getting a hold of some people up in Marquette. And I just wanted to get some type of blessing from the board to continue doing this, or should I just stop? I mean,
Anything John McMahon's involved with is excellent because he's a very good
okay,
advocate.
yes. So I've talked to him quite extensively and we're just moving forward with this to go something good for our website. My other issue is the county will not be reimbursing or providing paper for any commissioner at this time. This can be changed through board action. I know it's penny-wise, pound foolish for some of the decisions we made. I asked to have paper because I'm a paper guy. I don't use this iPad as much as I could. Maybe in the future I did. I don't need to print anything. But they had a board action took place 2010 and 11. Were you part of that, Chair?
Yeah, I was on there, but I can't remember what you're talking about.
Well, they provided iPads to
Correct.
reduce paper.
Correct.
Every board I'm on, except this board, honors my request to have paper copies. To meet in the middle with our past administrator, she gave me access to a printer. So I have to do all the research and then actually print it. What I don't have access to is, because I went through 2 reams of paper, seems minor, but I feel that that policy should allow us to have the materials that we need for the way I like to represent the people with paper copies. So I don't know how to go about requesting paper or if it has to change. I don't even know what the policy is. I looked at it. I know about the iPads coming into existence. But if we can do something with that, if it has to be board action or if Ashley can just make that decision.
I think we can do both. We can get on the next agenda to make it official, but I have no problem, personally speaking. When we did that, it was time to go to iPads, but you are a duly elected county commissioner. And if you want your materials in paper, then damn it, man, you should have your materials in paper at no cost to you.
Yeah, well, I figured $60 for the whole year. I mean, and as I move forward, I feel that it's going to be even less because I'll master this little beast here.
All right.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Our treasurer. Is that Sherry Godfrey?
Yes.
Bless her heart. She thought ahead and give us all the information on tax foreclosure process for the county that we can study ahead of time. Is anything going to be coming to the board on that we have to approve, or is she just being informative to us, which I really like?
Right.
Okay, so I want to thank her and the financial hardship extension policy. So if anyone needs to know anything about that, I would be willing to share that information with you. American Queen Voyages in Escanaba. I went to their presentation today. What a wonderful setup for the community. I think, if you want to be part of it, they have a lot of stuff going on. Small businesses setting up, little, one-day stands and that for these tourists that are coming in. They're coming here for 26 different trips from May to the October. So I just want to get that out there to, you crafters and stuff like that. I think it's a really good thing. And I think that might be, let me double check, paper, ADA web. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Miller.
No comment.
Mr. Byrne.
Well, I want to dovetail of Commissioner Peterson and the meeting we had yesterday. One thing that needs to be, it was brought up is you may have these, looking like these large amount of construction workers coming in the area, and but those that will be providing the goods and services for them in the area are going to be increasing in need also. And the housing shortage for them is even greater. And so there's a lot of pieces to this, but the opportunities are there for those who have resources to be able to be a part of this, and there'll be more information forthcoming. So thankful for that. Thank you. That's it.
All right, very briefly, in reference to courthouse security, and supporting our blue. I've been on this board for 13 years and I have yet to cast a vote that would contradict support for them. I have had a policy of giving them everything they've ever asked for and everything they've ever needed in terms of funding, training, a new jail. And if you do your due diligence and look at what this board has done for the sheriff's department, it's what the sheriff's department does for the community. We do back our blue. I would remind people that the American Rescue Plan money totaling $7 million, law enforcement was given their first choice to ask for their druthers, and they got their wishes fulfilled. So this security thing, it's going to have to go in phases as we're moving on it, and we are waiting for the sheriff to get back to us. He's a busy man, and he's got a lot to do. So as far as this board is concerned, I think it does back our blue very well. Ms. Presraki, anything?
Oh, nothing for me.
Ashley?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. Our website is ADA compliant right now. As it is, it was adding the agenda packets, which would make it non-compliant. And then I would also like to add that our judges are the ones that are in charge of the courthouse security. So the sheriff did his recommendations and everything, but it is completely up to our 3 judges.
So it's in their hands.
It is in their hands, and they are in charge of the courtrooms and the courthouse on the security. So I just like to make note of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Meeting schedule regularly, or Board of Commissioner meeting on 4/4/23 at 5 p.m. That's the Commissioner's Informational Workshop. Then there's a statutory board meeting on 4/11/23 at 5:15 right here in the Service Center. Regular Board of Commissioners meeting on 3/20 tonight. We have a committee of the whole meeting scheduled for 1 week from tonight at 5:15. You are welcome. We have a 30-day notice of appointments, and we're looking at somebody for the Pathways Board.
Oh, by the way, on the Pathways Board, could we put an ad in the paper on that?
Yes.
Looking for somebody.
Okay. And I was just going to make an announcement if anybody would like to apply.
Okay.
Please apply.
So you have that. With that said, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Move.
So moved.
Board.
All in favor, leave.
Leave.